bushwhacks were some of the worst days I've ever had in the mountains, or life, really.
Whereas Panther Mountain is totally opposite. It's a mountain on top of a crater.
I think the weather challenges on this incident were particularly difficult.
It was really the development of New York State. Catskills were responsible.
Now you're listening to Inside the Line, the Catskill Mountains podcast.
So 146, up to 146.
Let's do it.
Yeah, almost a year ago, I was reminded that we almost had the 100th episode thing down in the Camp Catskill. That was crazy. So we're going to be going on with this 146. We'll talk about that a little bit later. We're going to do a little kind of winter hiking revisited with Tad and me. I've done this before with Sean, and that was pretty cool. We did our winter hiking stuff, but I'm curious what Tad brings for his winter hiking, because he's a very good winter hiker. You like to hike a lot in the winter, right?
Oh yeah, can't get enough of it. Love that winter hiking.
Same. So we're going to go back and forth with our kind of like winter gear or winter hiking, what we want to do and stuff like that. Kind of give you a little influence of maybe what you should get or what you shouldn't get, or what's too expensive, what's not too expensive. More of that. It'll be mostly what's most expensive, because that's the name of the game nowadays.
Well, I'm not sure. Look, I bought a new backpack for winter hiking, and I got it more than half off. From all places. I did buy it online. Shame on me. But guess where I got it from online?
Osprey?
No.
I'm not sure of your backpack. That what?
Name an online retailer that you would expect somebody to buy gear from.
Amazon?
No. No, not them either.
REI?
No. Next.
Oh God.
You'll never guess it. It's the most no, you would go there to buy a soccer ball. Big clue.
Dick's?
Yes, I got it at Dick's.
No way.
It was like a $250 pack. I got it for $127. Closeout. So I went with that. I procrastinated for years over getting a new pack. The existing one is easily over 25 years old.
Nice.
So,
if it works, it works.
Well, we'll see. That hasn't come in yet. We'll see if it works or not. If it doesn't, I'm going to have to call SAR.
Yeah, probably. Or Danny, one or the other. But tonight, 146, we're going to do winter hiking revisited. We're going to talk about some winter hiking and our gear, basically. So the big question is, November 5th, 1955, Ted, where were you? What were you doing?
So on November 5, 1955, I think I was trying my second ascent of Mount Everest. That's what I was doing. I was trying to be the youngest unfertilized embryo or egg to climb Everest.
Nice. Do you know what that's references from?
Obviously not. It doesn't refer to my bogus attempt to climb Everest. But
this guy has really crazy hair. He's a scientist, and he hit his head on a toilet on November 5th, 1955. That's when he thought of the flux capacitor.
Oh, okay.
Do you know what that is? No.
I want to hear all about it.
Back to the Future.
Oh, really? I can take it winter hiking?
Yeah, Back to the Future. Come on, Doc Brown.
I could go back to when winter was winter in 1955.
Oh, God, yeah. I can only imagine.
When you had to wear your snowshoes all the time. It was a Saturday. I'm looking it up right now on Google. It doesn't say anything about, here it is. Invention of time travel and Back to the Future. Okay.
My God, Ted, you don't know what I can't. I'm kind of sad that you're not a movie kind of bluff kind of guy.
I'm just a bluff kind of guy. No movies. I just bluff through life. That's how I make it.
So November 5th, 1955 is when Doc Brown hit his head on his toilet and invented the flux capacitor in the DeLorean, and they time traveled. So
very cool. If we had Tom on the show tonight, I bet Tom would know that. He wouldn't let us down. Tom or Joe. Yeah. I bet you both of them would know that.
Yeah. So we've had some crazy weather here. Of course, today, when I went out hiking, it was 70 degrees. It was absolutely insane. But with the previous week was massive winds. And unfortunately, there was an incident that a hiker was struck and killed by a tree down in the Hudson Valley area. So Anthony's Nose in the Highland State Park on Saturday, October 26th, a 51-year-old hiker was struck and killed by a fallen tree. Police identified the victim as Elkin Fabian Gomez of Nino, Queens, native of Colombia. And unfortunately, his friends were with him, and they were just walking along. Unfortunately, they heard a tree crack, and it was a little bit too late. It hit Gomez, and they called for help. A group of 8 hikers were able to lift the tree. Now, one hiker went down to the mountain to get first responders to the scene, but he was pronounced dead on the scene. Crazy, unfortunate incident down on Anthony's Nose. This is one of those instances. I mean, the wind is, of course, there, and it's happening, but you can never expect those widowmakers and stuff like that, those trees to fall on you. It's one of those crazy, unfortunate incidences that happens. And, our thoughts and prayers go out with the family at this time, because that's just absolutely insane. It's one of those things that I cherish. I love the wind. I hear the wind. It's one of my things that I love to hear when I'm hiking. But at times when you hear those trees going swaying back and forth, you wonder, man, can that happen? And unfortunately, it did.
For sure. Yeah, that's very sad. I did check out the memorial page that was put up or posted for him, and it appears that 52 memorial trees have been purchased and will be planted in his memory. Somewhat ironic.
Because of his age, right?
Well, because of his age, but also because he was killed by a tree.
True. But hey, understandable. You familiar with Anthony's Nose, like with that area? I'm sure you are.
Yeah, I've never hiked that in particular, but I do recall on Sunday in the afternoon, I'm going to say from about 11 o'clock onward, it was very windy in the valley.
Oh, yeah. It was windy up here in Oneonta. Like, it's just on Friday, Jessica and I went hiking, and we'll chat about that. But it was just, the wind was whipping. And I know Anthony's Nose doesn't have the high trees like we do up in the Catskills. They don't have the high, birch and stuff like that. But, one little snap, and that could be 200 pounds that falls on you. That's instant. I don't even know how to say it. It's just, it sucks.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's a risk associated with hiking, is getting hit by a tree.
Yeah. What an unfortunate incident that happened. And once again, our thoughts are with the family, and, thank you to the first responders and such for dealing with that and helping the people out, because it's definitely one of those incidents that you cannot forget. And, yeah. So speaking of unfortunate incidents, have you ever heard of Peanut the squirrel, Tad?
Not until this past week.
Right. I knew it.
Yeah.
You weren't a fan?
Well, I had no idea that Peanut the squirrel was a thing, but he sounds like he's more in your neck of the woods than mine.
I mean, he is. It's the cutest thing. He was an Instagram squirrel for a while, and the guy just documented all the stuff they did, and they were adorable together and stuff like that. I'm a dog lover. I love seeing all that stuff, and he was rescued with this guy that just kind of documented his life together with the squirrel. And I gotta admit, it was adorable. It was absolutely fantastic to see that the squirrel was adapting to his human life and somewhat with each other's life, really. And
well, were you a fan of Peanut the squirrel before or after he was euthanized by the DEC? Before? Really? For how long had you been following Peanut?
probably with my other account. So I have two accounts. I have my Instagram, my Instagram for the podcast, and I have my regular Instagram, which is my personal Instagram. And I've been following him for about 3 years.
Wow.
So like the stuff that of course my wife showed me to him. I was just like, oh, we can adopt these little squirrels in our backyard. I'm like, there's 18 of them in our backyard. No, let it go. And this guy adopted a little red squirrel. Well, someone, he came into his life and he kind of brought him into life. And all of a sudden the DEC comes in and says, hey, this squirrel might have rabies. We're going to euthanize him. And then bam, shit hits the fan. You've heard this term before, Tad. You said, like, what does that mean? Shit hits the fan.
Yeah. What's that all about? I heard there was a little more. There was like a raccoon involved as well. And when they came in to confiscate or apprehend the squirrel and the raccoon, they weren't suspected of being rabid. That's what I understood.
Yeah. So that's the whole thing. They came in, and the funny thing is like his name is Longo, the guy that owns Peanut, and Fred. Fred was the raccoon. So they came in and marched up in and said, we have a possible investigation where something might have rabies. And it was instead of being the raccoon, which more carries rabies than squirrels. Squirrels have like a 99.999% chance of not carrying rabies because they're too small. They will die before the rabies gets to them. But they went in, seized Peanut, and then seized Fred, euthanized both of them because they were being tested for rabies. And all of a sudden, because Peanut and Fred were so popular amongst Instagram and social media, it just hits the fan. And then from there on, it just goes on a huge downfall of, this Longo guy comes out and talks about it. Every news company is contacting him. All of a sudden, like the drama that happens goes catapulting, and it's insane. And then later on, you showed me about the DEC received bomb threats later on.
Yeah. Apparently there's been 10 bomb threats, and the news story I read didn't spell out that they were attributable or traceable back to this incident with Peanut and Fred. But, given the timing and the number of threats, there's surely a correlation. And I do want to point out in the two news stories I read on this, the DEC went in to confiscate the raccoon and Peanut the squirrel because Longo was harboring wild animals. And during the course of the DEC recovering these two animals, somebody was bitten, presumably a DEC officer. And then the DEC decided that they needed to test the animals for rabies. So they didn't go in because they suspected the animals to have rabies. It was after they were in the process of confiscating them that the squirrel bit somebody, and the supposition was made that the squirrel could have rabies. So,
wow.
So it wasn't even as if the DEC was looking for rabid animals. They were looking for wild animals. Longo supposedly needed a rehabilitator's license to have these animals in his possession, which apparently he didn't have. He was in the process of getting it, according to the news story, but he didn't have a rehabilitator's license. He also, I don't know if you saw this, he also operates a animal sanctuary. Did you see that?
Wait, what?
Yeah, Longo has, check it out. He's got an animal sanctuary, rescue animals there.
Oh, wow.
Accepting donations. There's a GoFundMe page. Last time I saw it, there was like $156,000 raised for the animal sanctuary. And so Longo's making all this traction before Peanut is euthanized in terms of, going from rescuing one animal to, making this enterprise of having animals. And that's why he moved upstate. He moved upstate with Peanut and eventually gets into owning a place, converting it into an animal sanctuary, soliciting donations. Peanut's euthanized, the GoFundMe page, $165,000, and presumably more is coming in day by day.
Yeah. Under state law, only one way to legally rescue squirrels is become a licensed wildlife rehabilitator.
Correct.
It can take months, but with New York State, shit can take years. It's absolutely insane.
Well, he had Peanut for 7 years, so he had plenty of time. If he knew, he had plenty of time to get the license. Again, it's just interesting that apparently the DEC unannounced goes in to confiscate these animals. Why don't they just give the guy a phone call and say, hey, we know you have these animals, put them in a cage, and we're going to come and take them because you're not allowed to have them. And understand if somebody gets hurt in the process of taking your animals, we might have to euthanize them to test them.
Yeah.
And so maybe a simple phone call would have avoided all of this craziness.
A bite practically by a squirrel would probably, yeah. Hey, man, we're coming to check out your squirrel and your raccoon. Hey, how about you keep them okay or something like that? Wow. Yeah.
Cage them up. I mean, Stosh, if you were harboring a mountain lion, just for way of example, I'm sure the DEC would call you in advance and say, hey, Stosh, put the mountain lion in a cage because we're coming over to take it. You don't have a rehabilitator's license. And eventually you would agree to do that and nobody would get hurt. But because poor Peanut was just a little squirrel, they went in, grabbed him.
Guns and blazing and stuff like that.
Right. And a squirrel's a squirrel. Of course it's going to nip at somebody. It's going to nip. I mean, how much of, I'm just thinking all of this off the top of my head, but if you're going in to apprehend a squirrel, don't you think you'll have gloves on? Right?
Yeah.
Don't you have like those thick leather gloves, like with the cuff on them that goes up to your elbow and maybe beyond?
No.
How is it somebody got bit? Well, you're also getting the raccoon. You're also getting the raccoon. So
that's true. They got a little bit more bigger fangs.
Yeah, so you got to be prepared for both of them.
True.
Right, particularly the raccoon, but somehow somebody had an area of exposed skin or an area of their body that wasn't appropriately protected. They got bit, and now they had to euthanize these two animals. Sad.
Especially with, people that are harboring some, crazy ass animals like, not mountain lions, but, tigers and boa constrictors and stuff like that. And then you have a red squirrel and a raccoon. It's just, it's crazy. It's crazy and like I posted some stuff of this on my personal page and I've gotten some rabid responses. Little pun right there.
There we go.
It's just the people go crazy of this, and there's some people defending, of course, the DEC because of what they did, because it wasn't, it was a wild animal. But to be honest, Ted, what are your thoughts of like taking a feral cat off of the streets? Is that the same thing? Right?
Well, in certain respects, it is the same thing, but again, I just don't understand if I had whatever animal in my house and the DEC was going to come and take it, why don't they just call you in advance and say, hey, we're coming over. We want to take your cat, your squirrel, your boa constrictor, your mountain lion, your giraffe. I mean, it's like Noah's Ark here. And, it would be on me to make the safe transfer. And if I didn't, am I to blame because somebody got hurt in the process and an animal had to be euthanized?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm glad I don't have to make those kind of decisions.
Right. And then you get bomb threats later on.
Yeah. All I know is the whole time this is going on and you're looking at all the attention it's getting, I'm asking myself if those DEC agents would have been better off driving over to the Slide Mountain parking area
Yes.
with some 2x6s, 2x4s, and building a bridge over a certain west branch of the Neversink. So,
or even going right down the street and doing the freaking the Panther Mountain Giant Ledge kiosk. Come on.
Yeah. Well, we should start a GoFundMe page.
And, God, you know how much money? Oh, dude, don't tempt me.
Well, we say don't tempt you, but on the one hand, but on the other hand, I think with our 3 listeners, right? If that's all we have in terms of listeners, we shouldn't branch out to GoFundMe.
To be honest, this podcast, I can't say that I'm surprised because the Catskill community is so tight. This podcast has donated a great amount of money towards the Catskills, and we've had, of course, listeners volunteer for the Catskills, stuff like that. I guarantee if we did something like an organized event to go like at least remove that in the back of a truck so it didn't look as disgusting as it did. I went by there today and I drove by and I looked over to the left and I could see it off of the corner of the turn. I could see the deteriorated spot, and I was just like, God, that's disgusting.
Yeah.
But like if we went online and we did like a fundraiser, like you said, a GoFundMe, what would we have to freaking raise? It would be done in 2 hours.
Yeah.
$200.
Yeah. What's crazy is I don't know where it ranks in terms of most popular trailheads in the Catskills, but it's got to be in the top 5.
It's got to be. It's got to be number 4, number 3.
Yeah. And Danny Davis and we were over at Peekamoose Blue Hole Trailhead this past weekend, and you look at the register to sign in, and there's 2 years of entries there, right? And 1 book. So that's not very popular for hiking, or if it is, not a lot of people are signing in. And that register in that area is in pretty good shape. And then you go over to one of the most popular areas in the Catskills, and the kiosk is all banged up.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't. So,
yeah. So the petition has to be to make Stosh commissioner of the DEC.
DEC supervisor.
Yeah. You've got the hat on. You'd make a good supervisor.
I mean, this is a good hat. It's from Overlook Outdoors. So I mean, it's cool. It's good stuff. So Todd once again got me this, and crazy stuff. So you heard something. How did you get this from William Shatner? Do you want me to say this? How did you get this?
I just got it.
Are you on Twitter or something?
No, it just came up on Google when I searched for peanut because I wanted to find. I saw you put it in the show notes. I wanted to find out what this peanut character was all about. And this somewhat ties in with your Back to the Future. William Shatner, right? Okay, you can rip it off.
Okay,
tell us what William had to say.
So William said, I just heard about Peanut the squirrel. He was 7 years old and a pet for 7 years. How could he be considered a wild animal when all he knew was being a pet? You can say that all about an animal, but then the state of New York. Shame on the New York State DEC. So that was William Shatner. That's a pretty big influence, I got to admit. So if he heard it, other people heard of it. Like I said, shit hits the fan. Let's see. We're gonna have to keep it going with this.
Yeah. Well, maybe we ought to get Longo on this show.
I mean, Hudson Valley. He's probably said he moved upstate. Where was this happen? Did you see where this happened? I could not find out where he was.
No, the address is in there. It was it Pearl City, Pine City, New York?
How was that? It's probably considered upstate by everybody. It's freaking ridiculous.
Well, it's across the George Washington Bridge.
Oh yeah, that's definitely upstate. 100%. Pine City, New York. 100%. Let's go. What? Really? Pine City?
Yeah.
It's Elmira. That's over outside of Binghamton.
So when he moved upstate, he really went upstate.
Well, I would say, yeah, he went over near Horseheads and stuff like that. So below the Finger Lakes. Wow. Well, he got away from the DEC, but the DEC caught him. So try to run. So unfortunate incident with Peanut the squirrel and Fred the raccoon. So RIP, you guys are the best. One thing that I don't know how I with Tom on the show, I was going to bring this up, but I didn't put it in the show notes. So I heard this through the DEC, through the New York State planning. So over in Wyndham, there's some stuff happening that could be behind like our radar, behind everybody's radar. But I found this. I don't know how I found this. I just went on searching. I don't know, Ted, if you knew about this. So in Greene County, town of Wyndham Planning Board at Lee's agency has determined that the proposed Wyndham Mountain Master Plan redevelopment project will not have a significant adverse environmental impact. So the action plan involves an application by Wyndham Mountain Partners, LLC, who we all know as Wyndham Mountain Club, to the town of Wyndham Planning Board for the site to have a major subdivision approval implement on the master plan for development that will include new residential development at the base of the ski mountain, beach lodge improvements, expanded adventure center that will offer access to different on-site and off-site recreational activities that upgrades existing golf course and clubhouse. The project also includes proposed changes and expansions of the existing Wyndham Mountain private membership club and related access restrictions. The total project area close to the 245 acres spreads over 36 tax parcels. The plan includes the following components: construction of 66 residential units, 46 townhouses, and 20 single-family house lots of residential development. Expansion and construction of additional facilities in the applicant's existing adventure park. Expansion of an existing golf course known as the Wyndham Golf Club and associated maintenance facilities. And the project is once again located 245 acres plus 36 tax parcels in the town of Wyndham. So Ted, you are a very smart man. What do you got to say? What are you thinking? This is crazy, right? Did you know about this?
Yeah.
Oh, you did. I knew you did.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah.
I always thought I'm one ahead of you, but it's never like that.
The only one who's one ahead of me is my wife. So, right. So on the one hand, this kind of seems like a big project, but did you know in 2007, the state of New York gave the green light to a $400 million project to develop 2 hotels and 259 lodging units and residences on 273 acres of land next to what ski resort?
Probably Wyndham?
Nope.
Hunter?
Nope.
You got to be kidding me. Bel Air?
Bel Air.
Oh,
Right.
That's state area in the High Mountain.
Right.
They probably bought it.
Well, no, it was owned by private developers, but because of its proximity to the Bel Air ski area and the watershed concerns and all of that, jurisdictions with the state, the DEC, and again, it was like this mega project compared to what they're proposing at Wyndham. So one of my pet peeves is you have the state of New York next to its not-for-profit Bel Air Mountain Ski Center approving this $400 million project of, hotels, 259 lodging units, a ton of residential units, etc. Right? And what do you expect Wyndham to do to survive? They have to make a profit. They need to buy insurance. Bel Air doesn't need to pay for liability insurance. They have the state of New York backing them up. They don't need to have liability insurance. Wyndham does. That's expensive. That's one of the reasons why most ski areas have a hard close date now. It's because it's when their insurance policy runs for the season. So no matter how much snow they have on the slopes, they shut down because the most expensive thing going forward for them is continuing the coverage.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So when you have a ski season, which is getting shorter and shorter, and it's more expensive because you got to blow the snow on the mountain, then it rains and your snow turns to ice and you have to groom it. It's no surprise Wyndham is doing what it's doing. And at some point in time, Bel Air, that project at Bel Air never got built.
I was going to say, I don't remember ever anything ever happening except for the the new blowers and the new, what's it called?
The gondola.
Yep.
Right, which you really don't need in the Catskills. A gondola doesn't really get that cold. Okay. But if you have the state of New York and you have unlimited like borrowing and spending power, it's not that big of a reach to do that. But the project at Bel Air never made traction because the housing market fell apart in 2008. So that project never went forward again. At any time, they can, dust off the plans, renew their approvals, and go forward with that. In the meantime, you got Bel Air, Hunter, to a lesser extent, Plattekill, that are privately owned, trying to make a profit in a tougher and tougher conditions as each year goes by. So it's not surprising what they're doing at Wyndham. I do take note that apparently their peak capacity is 4,000 skiers on a weekend, and they're projecting that of those 4,000 skiers, 1,500 will be private club members, 2,500 will be the public. Of the 2,500 that's the public, they're reserving passes or tickets for people who are lodging in nearby hotels and resort lodging, so those places don't go out of business. And then the other thing I didn't realize they did over at Wyndham, but if you go to the Wyndham Public School, you get a season's pass at Wyndham Ski Area.
I remember seeing that before. Yeah. So, I mean, that's cool.
Pretty cool. Yeah. But
I mean, we all know what they've done in the past 2 years with their God, what do they call it? I'm in a private membership, but I forgot what they said. Breathe that fresh mountain air, and everybody's just like, "Oh wow, yeah, you get that limited mountain air up at Wyndham when you pay X amount of money to ski here at this awesome private club that shouldn't be private."
Yeah, their prices are probably in line with what you would pay elsewhere, other than if you want to be a member of that club. I'm sure there's a big initiation fee and then annual fees that you pay, but lift tickets aren't cheap anymore. And it's one of the reasons I got out of skiing is just the thought of paying, $100 and some for a lift ticket to go stand in a lift line for most of the day, ski on crappy man-made snow. And I could be out in the winter, if it's a good snow day, snowshoeing in the Catskills, not waiting in any line, didn't have to pay for a lift ticket, just having a good time going anywhere I want. So
as a non-skier, Ted, I'm curious, can you hike up to like Colonel's Chair and Bel Air and then ski down?
Well, Julie McGuire, Queen of the Catskills, does it all the time.
Does she? Okay. And is that a big FU? Like you flip everybody off that you're going down?
No. Well, the different areas have different policies for what they call it skinning. You put skins on the bottom of your skis, which gives you uphill traction. There's a different binding system or different binding systems that you use for skinning up the hill. You get to the top of the hill, you take off the skins, you throw them in your pack, you ski down. Some areas charge a nominal fee. Other areas let you do it for free early in the day. It differs from place to place. Some places just have one run open for it. Others don't have restrictions on it. But you want to talk about good exercise. Skiers, they call it earning your turns when you skin or hike uphill to ski down.
True. Yeah. So Julie did that a lot, but I'm curious if you can go up to Spruceton Valley and then hike up down the Colonel's Chair and then easy.
Yeah.
You can just flip off everybody.
I've seen people on that horse trail or Jeep trail with split boards, tele skis, skins, who go up to the fire tower and then ski down, bang a right, go over to the ski area.
Wow. This must be a rush. I haven't snowboarded in so long, man. I should try it sometime but I don't want to hurt my hip or something. He's like, Tad's like, I hear you, man. I hear you. That's the problem.
Yeah. Well, look, one of the reasons I don't go to ski areas anymore is there's just so much skier traffic. The thing that's most likely to cause an injury is skier to skier contact. It's not you're falling and hurting yourself. It's just getting hit by another skier. And if you really want to get into it, one of the things that is a problem at ski areas, particularly on the East Coast, is snowboarders, when they're going downhill, their field of view is limited because they have their back
True.
to 90 degrees of the fall line or where they're turning. So if somebody's coming from their blind side and neither is paying attention, chances are there could be contact. Not good. But when you're snowshoeing, particularly bushwhacking somewhere between Lone and Rocky, the likelihood of getting hit by another bushwhacker on their snowshoes, not very high.
Not at all.
Frankly, I think statistically, you're more likely to be attacked by a mountain lion back there than hit by another snowshoer.
You never know if Julie will go crazy and freaking come down one of those mountains and run into you.
She does it.
She does it. Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
That's the thing. Like, what if you're going up freaking Rocky and all of a sudden she's coming down? Watch out! Hits you in the face.
You able to get out of the way, but I'll tell you, man, what she's doing, that's pretty hardcore. I put that right up there at a number 10 in terms of hardcore activities in the Catskills. Skinning up those mountains and then skiing down where there's no trail, maybe thin cover. There's not enough snow to cover blowdown and stuff like that. What she's doing is, frankly, it's pretty dangerous.
Yeah, exactly. She needs to GoPro all that shit. So I mean, she's almost already done it. So what do you think of the chances, really quickly, of this going into development and starting ETA kind of stuff? That's a big project, I gotta admit.
Yeah, I don't know what type of outside agency approvals they need in terms of water and sewer. That's always a big issue with these projects, is water and sewer capacity, and then what type of financing they have to put together for it. But I think ski areas need stuff like this to keep them viable.
Yeah, and they got, of course, the condos and stuff like that to keep them going kind of year round. I know a lot of people that have them, of course, in the Wyndham area and stuff like that. I mean, who wouldn't want to own a condo over there and to go on a Friday night to Wyndham and then be right there to hike 15 minutes away?
Yeah, well, I don't know.
I'm not rich.
You probably find a better deal elsewhere, or why lay out that kind of green to own something year round when with an Airbnb, you can just pick and choose where you want to go. If you're going to take a long weekend, you can head up to the Whites, you can head up to Lake Placid, you could hop on a plane, fly out west, do a lot of different things instead of being saddled to a house at Wyndham Mountain. Doesn't sound too appealing. Sound too appealing to me.
Good way to say it. So we'll see where this goes. We'll keep an update on it. Of course, we'll keep an eye. We have been once again, and thank you to everybody who's kind of throwing us stuff back and forth. We've talked about the incinerator of Sullivan County, and I've gotten emails about that. So hopefully we'll keep in the loop about this and we'll hear about it. I just found this from searching the DEC website, so I got lucky. So. All right, Ted. So thanks for shooting the shit. I really appreciate it. I know that was boring as heck for you, but whatever.
It always is. I'm kind of used to it.
Right? So thank you to the monthly supporters, Darren White, Vicky Ferrero, Mike Sawatowski, Jim C., Betsy A., Denise, Vanessa, Joseph, Jim C., and Michael. Thank you guys very much and really appreciate you supporting the show. Once again, we'll get that time of year. We'll get a nice donation going back to the Catskills. So also capture your love story against breathtaking backdrops with Outdoor Chronicles photography. Molly specializes in adventure couple photography, and she'll immortalize your moments amidst the stunning landscape of the Catskills, Adirondacks, and White Mountains. She'll craft timeless images that reflect your unique bond with nature's grandeur. Embark on an unforgettable photographic journey with Outdoor Chronicles photography. Don't hesitate to get a hold of Molly on all platforms. I suggest you check her out on every platform because her stuff is absolutely stunning with just the stuff she does. It's just it blows my mind. I kind of wish my wife and I were into this when we were doing our engagement stuff back then. So also discover the wilderness with Trailbound Project. Expert-led hiking and backpacking education programs offer unparalleled outdoor experiences. Whether you're a beginner or a seasoned pro or an adventurer, join us to learn essential skills, explore stunning trails, and connect with nature. Start with your journey today with Trailbound Project and unlock the wonders of the great outdoors. They have a lot of stuff going on with the next previous months with Wilderness First Aid, Wilderness First Responder, stuff like that. There's a link in the show notes. Check them out. So, mentions coffees. Once again, buy us a coffee /hard cider on Buy Me a Coffee. If you look up Buy Me a Coffee inside the line of Catskill Mountain Podcast, you can support the show. I think it takes anything from $5 to whatever you want to donate. It's a hard cider or coffee, whatever. It supports the show. Once again, any cost that goes to the show that doesn't support the show will go right back into the Catskills, and we usually donate it to an organization and stuff. So also, if you mention the podcast, through social media, we'll chat about it on the show. We got a couple actually this week. A couple. It's usually like one. So Scion 72, October 31st, 2015. So this was 9 years ago. His first time up slide in Cornell. It was Inside the Catskill Mountains podcast. No all trails or GPS. I'm guessing that's what Sean uses now, is just all trails because he's always lost. The plan on this day was to do Wittenberg also, but he had to go home and work in the city that night, and it was processed for time. Understand that was my deal today, somewhat. So, Sean, thank you for joining us on the show. You were there with 100th episode where Tad wasn't. So, unfortunate. Tad was actually doing some epic. You were doing an epic veg or something.
But look at where I am now.
Oh, damn.
Who's behind the mic now, huh?
Damn. Sorry, Sean.
Yeah. So,
Sean,
there you
thank
go.
you. Once again, check out Scion72 on Instagram. Also, Chaotic, Quixotic. Is that how you say it? Chaotic Quixotic, right?
I have no idea.
That's Chaotic Quixotic. Spent Halloween as an adventurer. First solo hike, pushed through and spontaneously did the Devil's Path in a day. He planned on just Indian Head, Twin Sugarloaf as an out and back, and then did 24 miles. So I don't know how you just plan on doing kind of like the first 4 and then like just say, screw it, let's do all of them. So 11 hours, 50 minutes, amazing. We kept him company, which I don't know how we could keep him company up these areas. He probably hated us. So, yeah.
Well, we're having some influence.
Yeah, exactly. And then he said somebody picked him up at Laces, Brewston. So, 3 dogs / in a trench coat for picking me up at Laces Station. That's interesting. So I'm gonna have to. Hopefully, Tad, while I'm talking about this, please look this up because
sounds a little risque.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I was like, in a trench coat, mostly that's like the Undertaker kind of stuff. But Chaotic Quixotic, awesome job on Devil's Path. You know, that's Tad was doing that, of course, when he was supposed to be at the 100th episode. But you know, I don't blame him with Danny. It probably took him 18 hours to just look at different rocks going up Indian Head. So
it did. It took us a little bit longer that day. We did a nice side excursion to check out some really, really cool talus slope and some ledges.
I can only imagine. Danny's like always side excursion. Hey, let's go over here.
Yeah.
4 hours later.
Well, there's only so much trail hiking you can do. Right?
Correct. So also, Who's Outdoors? Tom from our last episode went up the Van Schoten Trail from Moonhaw. Now, if you're not familiar with that, it's not a trail. They say it's a trail. It's marked very faintly, but it's an absolute fantastic voyage up the Moonhaw going up to Wittenberg Mountain. Old Boy Scout Camp Trail, 7.3 miles, 3,000 feet of elevation gain. I got to admit, if you go anywhere from the Moonhaw up to any peak, you're going to have the most elevation gain in the Catskills. So He went to Shokin Reservoir before sunrise. I got an awesome few pictures. Headed up Wittenberg and Cornell and along very steep old Catskill Trail. They didn't want to go up where they came up, so we went to Wittenberg, Cornell, Dink Friday, and came back down, which is, I got to admit, awesome time.
I've actually in my gridding days, I did that hike a couple times.
It's nice. Have you ever come down the Dink? Go to the Moonhaw?
Come down from the Dink proper to the Moonhaw?
Yeah.
No,
it's absolutely horrible.
Yeah, I could imagine. That's why I've never done it.
It's this one of the stupidest ideas I've ever done.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm glad he didn't do it. Definitely. I don't think he says the Dink should count as a 3,500 peak. It's not even I wouldn't even think is it a bump. It doesn't even feel like a bump when you're going across it. Is it a pud?
There's some moderate elevation gain, but those of you who haven't done the Dink ever and do it sometime in the future, it's not what it used to be.
Oh no, not at all.
Yeah, 4 or 5 years ago, it was really tight with dead branches on the trees, interlocked. It was really long and slow traveling through there, and now it's just all blown out. There's a couple tracks leading through. You can make really good time going through the Dink. But like I said, 5 years ago, pre-COVID, it was tough going.
Yes, I wouldn't say it's horrible. It was enjoyable, but horrible at the same time.
Well, yeah, it depends what type of, suffering you like.
Exactly. So this is also the first time Tom hit the Cornell crack.
Yeah.
I saw his video. So that's
and
we talked about
video.
that.
Yeah, what'd you think of his technique? Now that he's not on the show tonight, let's criticize him. What'd you think, Stosh?
I didn't think it was too bad.
Yeah.
I just when I've done it a couple of times, it's just kind of wedge myself and push myself up. So
what would you say wedge yourself? What exactly are you wedging?
Like my body, I kind of got as close as I can, and I did like some spider band stuff, I guess.
Really? No, I'm really good at just putting my toe right in the crack, and because the crack, it's such a tight V crack, you can kick your toe in, not too hard, because number one, that's not good on your toes, and a couple times I've had a hard time pulling my foot out once I kick it in there too far, but I just a little kick to get my toe to lock into the crack, and it's like standing on a step. Just step up 3 or 4 steps and you're right up and over. It's not that bad. For me, when the Dink is at its worst is when it's packed with ice and you were kind of complacent because you only came out with a crappy pair of micro spikes that don't give you any traction on steep ice, and then the Dink becomes a challenge, or the Cornell crack becomes a challenge. So that's why, and we can hit this here. Often in the winter, I'll bring 2 sets of spikes with me: a pair of crappy rock spikes, and then something with good points on them. So if you get to something technical, you can just throw them on and clobber it.
God, sound like you're a safe kind of guy, like safety first. God.
I got a wife and 2 kids to take care of. I can't spend the night out in the winter. I need to get.
True. So he's been on Cornell 4 times. Gotta admit, that's more than me.
Really? Wow.
I gotta admit, I haven't been on Cornell as much as him. 3. So we'll get there.
Cornell is one of the harder mountains to get to because you have to go over something else.
It's one of the loneliest mountains, I gotta admit.
Yeah.
So I'll talk about this later, and I'm embarrassed to talk about this, but we'll talk about this, and I will admit it. All right. So he's done social hikes, 2 more peaks. He said this is social hikes are the best thing that's happening, but so many great people. So Tom, glad you are enjoying the Catskills. So don't forget to rate the show. Go on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever, to rate the show. I don't know if that helps. Share the show on social media any way possible. Your stories on Instagram, Facebook, share it, whatever. Anything helps, whatever, and we can just get it out and get the show rolling and maybe build some kiosk around here. Damn, son. So you drinking anything, Ted?
Hold it. Let's see if tonight, if it gets picked up. You ready?
Ooh, that was good.
Yeah.
I will enhance that. What is it?
So it is a Allagash White Belgian style wheat beer, 5.2% alcohol content. And it's a leftover from when my daughter was here. She likes wheat beers. And so I got a stack of wheat beers to knock off slowly. And I'm doing this one tonight.
Nice.
You ever had it? Have you ever had it?
I don't
You're
have
not
beers.
A beer guy.
No. I'm having a Hudson North caramel apple hard cider, of course. Look at that. I mean, that looks good.
Yeah, it looks beautiful.
You kind of poured that perfectly. Have you done this before?
No, I've never poured my own beer before. I usually have my butler come in, crack it for me because I don't want to mess up my manicure. Or is it a manicure or a pedicure? Right. My manicure. Yeah. And because I'm very vain about that. So James, could you bring in a couple more cold ones for me? Thanks,
James,
buddy.
That's lame. It should be like
butler.
Omspree or something. Omspree.
Or like a Nordic name.
Yeah, right.
Go with the outdoors.
Yeah. Well, excellent. So enjoy it. I've gotten Tad back into drinking. I hope this doesn't lead to catastrophic injuries later on.
You're proud of your accomplishments.
No,
my wife has left me. I got fired from my job.
But I'm still doing the podcast.
Yeah, I'm using all my camping gear to sleep under the overpass by the interstate, but I managed to sit outside the local McDonald's and use their Wi-Fi for podcasting.
I was going to say, at least you're not sleeping in Porter Johns like Chris.
No, but I am now that I know that it's economically worthwhile. I am going to be out on the lookout for a squirrel
to try to get some social media.
Start my own GoFundMe.
Oh, wow. Turn of events. All right. So previous hikes, Tad, I know you sent me pictures, but I can't remember what you did. Okay.
So Danny Davis and I hooked up on Saturday. The weather was your classic late fall, pre-winter, some wind blowing. Temperature was kind of up and down when the sun came out and when it went away. But we met up over at the Pikamoose Blue Hole parking area and hiked up the Bear Hole Brook. And we hiked up to about an elevation of just shy of 3,000. Then we headed almost due north up one of the ridge lines that comes off a table. And I'm going to say, if you haven't done it, the first quarter of a mile up that Bear Hole Brook is off the hook.
Stellar.
Yeah, on my Instagram, I did a little reel. Didn't come out great, but it'll give you an idea of what you encounter that first quarter of a mile or so. And then going up the Bear Hole Brook was fairly easy going. It wasn't as bad as some of these streams or brooks. And I think we kind of got bored of just blue lining it. So we turned north. It was fairly steep. Steep enough to give you an idea that I was basically crawling up it like a bear, feet, hands, going up the mountain, hit a little birch forest to make it easy to get some hand and footholds, made it to the ridge, got over to the table, and then went over, trail to Pikamoose, and then the long hike down. Yeah. I don't know which is worse, Wittenberg or this. I think this is better than Wittenberg. Wittenberg is just so coming down, so ho-hum, not a lot of exciting stuff going on there. But that forest coming off of Pikamoose down to the notch is pretty cool. It's open. You get a good view with the leaves off. You can see a Little Rocky, Ashokan High Peak, and other other mountains. So it was a fantastic hike. And I don't know when Davis and I are hooking up again, but it was a good time.
So you went like extremely high up the Bear Hole Brook. Like you almost went to its source.
Yeah, we went past the curve to the west, and we were planning on going all the way up, but just a few things factored into it. There was a fair amount of, you can't call it blowdown because most of these trees fall over because of the bank erosion on the side. And so that takes time getting over them. After a while, you kind of get tired of hiking on top of the rocks. They were mainly moss covered, but there was really very, very low flow water through there. So, water crossings weren't an issue. But if you remember the col between Table and Piccamoose, you remember how tight those trees are on that, what I guess would be western side of it.
Southwestern, yeah.
So,
I mean, even if you go up like you said, you went to 3,000 feet, you go up that side up a Table, it's tight as heck. It's one of the tighter spots of the Catskills.
No, so we got really lucky because the line we picked up, traction was somewhat of an issue. And that's where the little saplings were really handy because there's so much blowdown on that. There's not a lot of soil. It's mainly talus rock, if you will, or maybe better to call it glacial till without any fines in it. And so we were using the little trees as basically hands and footholds, and we just picked a line that had us come in just to the west of where the balsams were.
Wow.
So basically we hit the ridge, hung out for a couple minutes, and then turned to the right east and made a beeline to the summit. It wasn't so bad. I mean, if we had gone through the col, that would have been slow going because nobody goes through there, right? But I think a fair number of people come over from Van Wyck through that area. So, it wasn't one of those things where you have to walk through it like a drunken hiker, one step forward, two steps back, go to the side, forward again, back to the side. It looks like you've been drinking on your way up the mountain. So it was good. It was good.
I got to admit, go ahead.
We bumped into, one of the funnest things is when you spend all morning to midday, out just the two of you bushwhacking, and then you get to the summit on Table and there's a couple there with the dog. You just want to like nonstop talk, right? You become very social. Yeah. And Danny had to pull me away. And then we went down, we went over to Piccamoose, and again, there was more people. So I was very chatty. And then we went on our way down the long descent. It's a great hike. I'm glad we did it.
It's so funny. Like, I got to admit, the difference between you and Danny is like Danny is awesome, amazing human being. Just the knowledge is vast and goes beyond what you can comprehend. And then like he's just like, let's check this out. But he'll show you all this knowledge. But when you get to a social aspect, he'll be like, let's keep going.
No, he's, we're good together.
But you love people. You love talking with people. You're like, I don't know.
I could strike up a conversation with anyone. It's one of my pastimes, talking. Nice. I could get paid to talk. If you think about it, I could make a living out of talking to people.
True. Very true.
But I can't make a living doing a podcast, sadly.
Not in the Catskills. Not the Catskills. You got to go to the Whites, Adirondack, stuff like that.
Or the Rockies. So tell us about your hike. You've been out a couple times.
So Friday, I took the day off. I actually called into work. I was like, screw this. I'm going with Jessica. It's her birthday. We're going to go out and she wanted to hike an easy trail. So I'm like, she loves waterfalls. And I love waterfalls as well. And I'm like, listen, we are in a severe drought. There's going to be no waterfalls whatsoever. And I could tell you anywhere there's going to be no waterfalls. So there was a place we went to a while back. I don't even know when, but it's called the Plotterkill Reserve up in Albany. It's right outside of, it's right outside of Rotterdam. It's to the west of Rotterdam. And it has like a bunch of probably like 2 or 3 60 to 90-foot waterfalls. And from the last time that I've been there to this time, the improvements have been dramatic. Like I'm trying to think of when the last time, it was like 2014. So it's been 10 years, 10 years. And like the parking lot was just a whole area full of garbage and stuff like that. Now the parking area has guardrails, stuff like that, kiosk stuff. There is the first initial area of like 0.2 miles is a nice paved area where you go into, and then you take a right and you start going down, and you can see little platforms and area. They have their mapping system isn't insanely accurate because it doesn't tell you mileage, but it tells you different points. Like you'll have 15 stops here and there, and this stop is an overlook of this waterfall. This stop is an overlook of this. And we get to the first like spot, and we look and we're like, we have to go down that. And it's seriously like a vertical drop. And at this time, there was just wind blowing crazy. All the leaves were off the things. And there's these little tie lines that you have to follow. It almost feels like you're going down, what's it called, in Yosemite. Half Dome.
With the cable?
Yeah.
Huh.
Like I'm seriously slipping at every spot, and I'm just like, oh my God, she's going to hate this. And like I'm slipping, she's falling. We're just holding on to the cables. And then it leads down. There's this just straight up down area full of dirt and leaves. And then there's this nice platform area. And then it has steps walking down. It's so odd. And I'm just like, okay, so they're in the plans of, it's a preserve. So they're in the plans of doing this area and this area. And the first overlook is a 90-foot waterfall, absolutely dry, nothing, of course. And we're just like, she's like, yeah, let's keep going on. So we go on. It's still, I forgot how much the drop was, but it was probably like 300 to 400 feet within like, I would say 1/10 of a mile. Wow. It was dramatic as heck.
And did you have to climb back up that?
No, we did a loop. Luckily I remembered what we did. And I'm like, I do not want to come back up that because I was falling, and like seriously, my hands, I kind of wish I had gloves because my hands, I was like sliding down these areas. But
you didn't bring gloves. You didn't bring gloves with you. You're like, Mister, I have everything in my pack. I can do open heart surgery on a hike. That's the
correct
image I have of you. But you didn't have something as simple as gloves with you. Wow.
Listen, I didn't even have my pack with me.
Oh, really? Were you carrying a Polar Spring water bottle? Was that you with like flip flops on, just sauntering through the woods?
Nail chain.
Yeah.
2 nail chain bottles.
Wow.
But this was like, so the total distance was,
you're giving Catskill hikers a bad name, man.
It's 1.2 miles, but like the elevation drop was insanely dramatic. And it's just really weird how they have like a set of stairs and then a complete dirt drop with leaves. And it's just seriously like, hold on to your life. You might survive. And then it gets to the creek. It's awesome. And then you go back up, and it's a nice gradual climb. Awesome. Beautiful. Like if you're in the Albany area, Rotterdam area, this is a great place to see, especially when there's not a weekend day, because I could just imagine how crazy it is on there on a weekend. But we hit times of where we were looking up into the trees, and the trees were swaying so far that we were just like, we got to keep moving. This is getting scary. Like there must have been like 50 to 60 mile an hour gust in this city area with no elevation gauge. So I'm just like, I look at Jessica and I'm just like, I hope people in the Catskills are being safe right now, because they got to be hitting some crazy gusts, and I didn't hear anything. So, but yeah, so it's Plotterkill Reserve. Awesome. Beautiful area. Great kind of like interactive time of where you can see where you're at and stuff, and beautiful waterfalls if they were flowing. And I'm going to post a picture of where I was 10 years ago, of where I was standing like 3 or 4 feet from the edge of the falls, and they will not get you. You cannot approach that falls within 15 feet now. They're just like, stay away from the falls. You will die. I'm just like, all right. I was here 10 years ago and I was at the edge of the fall. So good times. But today, Tuesday, I went up Slide Mountain and I went up the Curtis Almsbury Trail. I got to admit, I haven't been up there in a while, and I forgot how absolutely fantastic that trail is. I got to admit, that's one of the hidden gems of the Catskills.
So now with that photo you posted, now that ties in, because I was having a hard time placing that section of trail. And for a moment, I thought you were over between Camel's Hump and Thomas Cole with the
dirt track.
Trees.
Yeah. Oh, the beach trail. Okay. I showed you. I was gonna say. I was gonna think you guessed because I sent you that video of me just walking on the trail, and I was just like, he's gonna know instantly.
Yeah, I mean that really threw me. But then the trees, I thought, well, because that's your section to maintain, maybe you were over there. But now that you say it was Curtis Ormsby, yeah, that's definitely that's a gem of the Catskills, and we'd like
to keep it that way.
Yeah, we'd like all of our listeners to stay away from that area. It's just off limits. It's for Stosh and I and our select guests. But if you haven't been there, you got to go over and hike it. It gives you a better feel of Slide Mountain.
Oh yeah. And the funny thing is when I was climbing up it, I wasn't like noticing time or distance and stuff like that. You know, when you get to that junction, you're just like 2.3 miles. Jesus Christ, that's a long ways away. But all of a sudden, I was at that junction hitting the red trail, and I was like, "Are you kidding me?" Because of just the gradual gain, the beautiful, especially when there's no leaves on the trees. I remember the last time I was on it was during the summer, and I didn't have views of the you can see Rocky and Pika or Table, or Table and what's it called? Rocky and Table, and I was just like Lone and Table.
Say them mountains over there.
Yeah, Lone and Table. And like, I was just like, all of a sudden I hit the trail junction. I was like, are you kidding me? I'm like, it was that easy. But then when I was coming down, I took the actual slide trail down, and I'm like, this is the absolute difference between a hiking trail and a social trail because of how freaking wide and how nasty and dirty, and I wouldn't say nasty, but how loose the dirt is on the social trail, but how awesome the Curtis Almsbury Trail is, that you can kind of like fly up, fly down, and just enjoy it.
Yeah.
And not worry about time.
And I suppose that's one of the nice things is that you hit the Jeep trail first, and that then takes a lot, like 80%, 90%, maybe 95% or more of the traffic going up Slide and coming down Slide takes the Jeep trail because it's the shorter and presumably the faster route up. And then people that really, they want to get out there, hike a bit further and have a better mountain experience, get more into the forest. That Curtis Ormsby is the cat's meow.
Oh yeah. Just going in and out of the balsams. And there's like a one time, I put this in the show notes because on the way up, I was just like, I don't want to forget this, but it kind of felt like being on top of Graham with those short trees, the short birches and stuff.
Yeah. They're not as short as the ones we're on Graham,
but it still felt like that, like you were going into that time. And I was just like, wow, this is like, I was in there, like I said, I was in there in the summer, like years and years ago, but in the fall on a 70-degree day, I was just like, wow, this is magical. And I had no concept of distance and time. And then all of a sudden I was at the trail junction. I was like, wow, it's that crazy. It's that nice.
Yeah. So was there a view up there? Did you get a view at the top of?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Stunning view. That's, I had all intentions to go to Bel Air. I wanted to do Bel Air and do the Pine Hill West branch, and then go back down, not Lost Clothes, Giggle Hollow. But I was just like, 70-degree day. I want to be on top of freaking Catskills.
So is this where you go public with the fact that you're doing the all trails? That's what I'm sensing.
I was 100% all trails. I am starting to do that.
Mm-hmm. So we hear it tonight, right? Stosh is working on the all trails.
Finally on another what's it called? List.
Yeah. It's worthwhile.
It is. I can't wait to get out west a little bit more and do that stuff. I think my next quest is gonna be out and do oh God. You gotta be kidding me. Why am I forgetting this? All the way out west, the furthest out west, Cannonsville.
Mm-hmm.
Go to Cannonsville and start doing that stuff. But then all the, I don't understand all these times that you have to have two cars. Like it makes more sense.
Well, yeah, and I've done all those solo.
Oh,
and
God damn, it doesn't make sense though.
Well, I do it with a bike and a Jeep.
Okay.
Drop the Jeep off, ride the bike, start and hike back to the Jeep. Or one of the things I'll do is I'll drop the Jeep off and then I ride the bike to some place where I'll bushwhack to the trail.
All
and
right.
then you can eliminate like a lot of rehiking trails that you've already checked off the list because you just bushwhack to where you left off. And I've done that a few times. It works out well. And the last time I did it, I went through some really, really interesting terrain. I enjoyed it. And that's where you can turn what might be considered some ho-hum trail hiking into more of a forest adventure.
True. And that's, I've been searching myself on the All Trail Challenge. I was actually like thinking about doing Kelly Hollow or Campbell Mountain or something like that. But then I was just like, today is going to be one of those stunning days where I need to get that viewpoint. And I'm very glad that I did the viewpoint, of course, of Slide Mountain because it's absolutely stunning. It's absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, well, it's hard to say no to Slide on any day, right?
Yeah. And I was like, dude, nobody going up the Curtis Armsbury Trail. And then down, I saw two people. Like,
yeah, not all that surprising.
On a Tuesday. Yeah, right. Yeah.
But Kelly Hollow is something you can do with your wife.
Exactly. Yeah. That's the thing is I'm gonna start. I told her that, and I told her even the Curtis Armsbury Trail would be phenomenal for her because she would enjoy the slow, leisurely hike up, being secluded from people, and just the in and out of the balsams. Like I thought that was like once again, when you're out of the summer season, you don't get that darkness. You get total darkness going almost all the way up, but you get in and out of these balsams. You're like, oh damn, I'm hitting the balsams again. And I'll tell you this, on the Blue Hole Brook, man, we ran into some mammoth hemlock trees. Nice.
Yeah. I don't know how old they were. I mean, that's a Mike Kudish question, but these were just some huge monsters. And we did run into a grove of dead ones. We don't know necessarily what caused them to die, if it was a disease or something, but there was about almost a dozen within, I don't know what the radius was, but they were all next to each other, so could have been some invasiveness going on there.
You ain't gonna get them up there nowadays.
Yeah.
That's going to take 2 days to get him up there.
Who's that?
Kudish.
Mike? Yeah. Mike's becoming my buddy. I'm getting emails from him all the time. I like it. He's such a cool guy.
You're a servant now.
Doesn't bother me.
I'll agree. So awesome. Looks like we had absolute fantastic times. Once again, get out there, have some fun. Also volunteer, 3500 Club, Catskill Trail Crew, Catskill Mountains Club Visitor Center, Jolly Rovers Trail Crew, Bradley Mountain Fire Tower. Volunteer wherever you can. It'll help out immensely. Also, if you need stickers, send me a message any way possible, email, social media, whatever. I'll send you a sticker for free, no cost.
Why don't we go from stickers to patches? Why don't we get some patches?
The patches. That's I don't want to spend that much money. I'm gonna.
Well, I'm sure if you got some people who wanted patches, they'd pay. How much would it be? Like $2.50, $5 for a patch. There's only so much you can do with a sticker. I mean, you put it on your Nalgene. I have one on my Jeep. My daughter has one on her
I didn't see one
cargo
on your
carrier.
Jeep.
Yeah, it is. You got to look closely, buddy. Okay, you're not like DEA material. Yeah, that's it. You got to it's right next to my 420 sticker.
I'm gonna send your wife a message. Be like, tell me.
I'm gonna send you a photo in the morning.
All right, please do.
On the Jeep.
So weather this weekend. Let's take a quick look at the weather. I mean, Tuesday. It looks like Friday and Saturday. From Tuesday, it's going to be clear with a low of at night on Friday of 16 and a high of 45. Looks fantastic for Friday and Saturday. Sunday looks a little bit shitty so far. Light rain in the morning, consisting to heavy rain in the later afternoon area. Anywhere from a quarter of an inch to a half an inch of rain, a high of 48, a low of 39. So get out there Friday and Saturday if you can. Sunday, bring your rain gear, bring your extra socks, stuff like that. Tonight, we're going to be talking about that kind of stuff for Sunday. So
while we're on the topic of weather, where are you getting the forecast from?
mountainforecast.com.
And why are you looking at mountainforecast.com and not just like weather.com or something like that?
Because usually mountainforecast.com gives more of the higher elevation weather.
Precisely.
Yeah, instead of like down low, because I always get like, I always see stuff at freaking Shandaken and stuff, and it's like 72 degrees. And we all know the peak today at Slide Mountain down bottom, I guarantee it was 70 degrees, but at the peak, I would say it was around 52.
Yeah. So what is the low? Well, let's take the high temp on Saturday. What are you reporting on Mountain Forecast?
45.
45. And then it gives the wind chill, right? What's the wind chill?
Wind chill goes down to 28 degrees in the morning.
28 degrees. So that's almost 35. A 20. Yeah, that's almost a 20-degree swing. And that's significant. So when you start off in the parking area, leaving your car, you're in a warmer area. You're warm because you just hopped out of your car, and then you're going to be hiking uphill, generating a lot of heat. You get to the summit, it's 28 degrees in the wind, and you're not prepared for it because you thought, wow, it's like 48 from the parking lot. So that's where you need to look at the weather on the mountain summit forecast. In addition to the weather forecasting app that comes with your smartphone.
Yeah.
As well as check out the color radar, because that's where you get to see it live as it's happening.
Yeah. It's definitely a big difference, once again, like today, to be honest, I didn't take anything out from when it would be winter hiking. I had my hard shell. I had my kind of inner layer of sweater. I had my micro spikes in there and stuff like that. My pack was, I don't know why, but I just did because, get used to, a 30, 40 pound pack. It's nothing. It's absolutely nothing. So,
yeah. So how many liters is your pack?
42.
Yeah. So that's on the big side for the Catskills, in my opinion. Most people I come across, like Danny and myself, our winter kit typically fits in a 30-liter pack, and my new pack is 30 liters.
Nice. That's I mean, I don't have anything below 40.
Yeah. 40 liters. Wow, man. In the summer, I'll go down to 12.
Oh, wow. Jesus Christ,
yeah,
dude.
When I'm feeling like a daredevil, I got a couple liters of water in there, some Cliff bars, and
Jesus,
a bandana. I'm really living on the edge.
Wow. That's
trail hiking.
That's a little bit crazy for me because I got to carry everything. So yeah, let's go straight to the sponsors and then we'll get on with winter hiking, winter gear. How's that sound?
Yeah, sounds okay.
Sounds okay.
Whoopee.
Yeah.
Who likes to hike in the winter?
What? Yeah. Who likes to hike in the winter? I mean, if you do, you can go discover Camp Catskill in Tannersville, your ultimate hiking store. Find top quality gear, apparel, and accessories for all your outdoors adventures. Our expert staff is here to every hiker from beginner to seasoned pros. We also help carry a variety of unique Catskill souvenir and gifts. Visit us online at campcatskill.co or in the store to gear up for your next journey. Adventure starts at Camp Catskill. Also discover the beauties of the Catskills, Adirondacks, and Hudson Valley with scenic route guiding. Our expert guides ensure a safe, unforgettable hiking experience tailored to your skill level. From breathtaking vistas to hidden gems, or if you're peak bagging to just simple day hikes, we'll lead you to the best spots and back. Book your adventure today and explore nature's one door with scenic route guiding. Check them out on all social media platforms. Also, if you mention the podcast, you can get 10% off. Use the code Mountain Lion so you can embark on a transformative journey with Another Summit. Another Summit is dedicated to serving veterans and first responders with free outdoor activities. Activities like walks in nature, paddling, hiking, or even backpacking. Join a supportive community to rejuvenate in nature's embrace. Experience camaraderie, adventure, and healing at no cost. Take your next step with Another Summit and ascend into heights of resilience and joy. Apply today on anothersummit.org. So let's get on to the topic of the night.
Let's go.
Boom. Winter hiking revisited. So I don't know when I did this. I think it was in the 60s that I did this episode of winter hiking with gear and stuff like that. So I thought we'd revisit it after a year or two, I would say, because things have changed, of course. I mean, ice axes are now needed in the Catskills, required. So
It's required equipment.
yes. So,
All right. I actually twice. Not that I do a lot of group hikes, but I remember 2 group hikes in the Catskills where somebody showed up with an ice axe. And it's a great way to tell everyone else in the group that you've never winter hiked before in the Catskills when you strap an ice axe to your pack.
you actually got to experience that.
Yeah, I saw one time. It was funny because the fellow portrayed himself as somebody who hikes a lot in the Catskills, and there he is with this like ice axe, thinking that it was going to be needed. And then another time, a fellow had all new gear for winter hiking. He was taking the tags off in the parking lot. And that day I was hiking the 6 with Marv Friedman, and my assignment that day was to watch this guy. He is like his buddy. Yeah. And I look at the end of the hike we did the 6, we came out at Blue Hole, and I told Marv to just hike ahead with everybody else and I'll stay back with this guy because he was just dragging his feet and having a lot of difficulty. And his idea of winter traction was a big set of like mountaineering crampons, with like the 3-inch points or whatever it is on the toes. Yeah. So when he needed pointy traction the most, he didn't need 3 inches of it. He just needed like little nubs. So I had a set of trail crampons and then micro spikes. And so I gave him the trail crampons and I used the micro spikes and made his day. Nice. And got him back to his car in one piece.
Nice. So the big question is, why would you want to try winter hiking? Well, of course, the kind of answer is to mostly everybody who is in the Catskills is to finish 3,500 lists. You have to do 4 mountains: Slide, Panther, Blackhead, and Balsam. But, another reason of why they do this in the 3,500 Club is to introduce you to a whole nother aspect of hiking, is to prepare you for what else is out there, to prepare you that summer hiking is not just the only thing, that winter hiking is absolutely phenomenal and it'll blow your mind away. And, to be honest, I was one of those people. I was just like, why would I want a winter hike? And then I did Panther Mountain during a little snowstorm. And I got to admit, I'm going to say it, fucking hooked. Never looked back. I was just like, yeah, this is the greatest time of my life. I've had the best time. I didn't have any views, but you know what? I enjoyed it 100%.
Yeah, that's where we need to give a little disclaimer. We're not responsible if we get you totally addicted to winter hiking, because it is addictive to get out of the house or your apartment or wherever it is you call home in the winter. Get up to the mountains when there's snow on the ground, snow on the trees, blue skies, or snow in the sky, and start hiking around. If you have the right equipment and if you're in shape and you know where you're going, you have a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah. And if you have the right company too, that will enjoy it and kind of give you that, I don't know, you can, we'll talk about that experience. And, Ted, I want to know your experience. We'll talk about that later, of course, but it just gives you that kind of mindset that you're going to like be hooked. And speaking about mindset, I got to admit, we'll start things off with the winter hiking aspect. You will be going nowhere near as fast as you did with summer. Conditions will change periodically. If not, you don't know, with a couple 100 feet of elevation gain, you will be changing your pace dramatically. Whether you have to put on gear, you have to take off gear, you have to put on gear again, you have to put on layers, you have to delayer. You won't be going as fast as you will in the winter times. I mean, that's controversial, but I would say 95% of the time.
Well,
if there's a rail, you can be flying.
Yeah. I mean, when the snow's packed down and those trails basically become a white snowpack sidewalk and everything's under the snowpack, and you can either use your micro spikes or trail crampons, you can really fly. I mean, you can fly going uphill, you can fly going downhill, you're getting really good traction. Maybe this time of year when you're hiking on wet leaves, you have to slow down more than on a good day in the winter. But when it really, really gets slow for you in the winter is when you're breaking trail in freshly fallen snow, particularly dense snow and drifting, and you're either going solo or just have a few people in the group on trail, you'll be down to 1 mile an hour.
Oh, yeah. And especially, when their first experiences of having, micro spikes or trail crampons or stuff like that, you will be going slow because once again, you'll be kind of second guessing. But after, a couple 100 feet of gain, you'll start getting that confidence up, and it'll grow. Trust me.
Yeah.
My winter experience has the confidence has grown so much.
Yeah. So don't do blackhead in full winter conditions for your first winter hike. Okay.
Especially on the east side.
Yeah. Even though it's on the list of one of the 4 that's required, don't do it at your first one. If you're, do slide up the Jeep Trail before, or Panther before you do blackhead.
Yeah. So when we talk about traction, what's your go-to traction at first? So we have, let's say the scenario is at the base, we have nothing, but as you gradually go up, you get a little bit frostier. And then all of a sudden you're just skeptical of like, hey, maybe I need to put on some small traction. What do you have in your pack, Dad?
Yeah. So overall, I have the 3 devices. I have the micro spikes. I have the Hill Sound trail crampons, which has got about 50% more bite than the micro spikes. And then I have the Catula K10, which is very aggressive, but I think it's all you need in the Catskills. And I only carry 2 of those flavors with me when I go out, max. Sometimes I'll just bring 1 along. But to me, I look at how much icing there's been during the prior week, how much freeze-thaw cycle we've had, and how likely I'm going to be to encounter ice. And if I have any really, really steep ascents to make or descents, such as the Cornell Crack or doing the Eastern 4, the Devil's Path, then definitely if I'm going to be hitting ice like that, the trail crampons are in the pack. The question becomes, is my secondary means of traction, am I using the K10s or the micro spikes? Stosh, you know what the K10s are? You ever seen them?
Of course.
Yeah. So Those are very aggressive, but they're overkill for a lot of conditions. But you'll hear people complain about Sugarloaf in the winter.
Oh yeah.
But on a really, really bad day on Sugarloaf or Blackhead or anything that's steep and icy in the winter, if you have those K10s with you, it's not a problem.
So we talk about micro spikes, trail ice crampons. So with the micro spikes, of course, that's for kind of like, I'm trying to say it, little bit of ice, more of ice. Trail crampons, aggressive ice crampons, full on ice when you're kind of like thinking about your life, like this needs to happen. And, with the micro spikes, I will carry them probably when I hear about the first frost till the end of the last frost, kind of like till I'm like, okay, nothing's done. Trail crampons will be there. I always have 2 pairs of crampons, micro spikes in my pack. One for me, one for somebody else, because you never know, of course. I mean, I'm not this in 3,500 club, but a lot of these people that want to do the 3,500 club aren't that prepared with going up some of these ascents, like you talked about. Of course, Blackhead, we go up the east side of Blackhead. It is one of the most crazy ascents that you have in the Catskills, especially in the winter, because it is complete ice all the time. And I've met people coming up through there from the Batavia Kill area that have not had any traction at all. And I'm just like, haven't you hit ice for the past like 30 minutes? How the hell have you gotten up here? And
yeah,
unfortunately,
off trail.
Yeah,
they'll have a foot or two off trail when they do that.
Yeah, and then I'll give them unfortunately, I've given away at least 2 or 3 sets of spikes that have been dulled. I feel bad because they're not really spikes anymore. They're rounds, micro rounds, really.
Yeah,
like
they're rock spikes.
Exactly, and
they've hit the rocks too much and they get ground down, but there's still some level of traction. And maybe I just want to throw out there that if you're going to go winter hiking in the Catskills, you don't need all 3 of these. You can get through all winter and you can do all of this with a pair of micro spikes. You just got to be more careful if that's all you have. But if the icier and steeper it gets, if you've got a bigger set of spikes, you can just go faster with them.
Correct.
So,
and we can talk about like prices go from like $60 to probably like $120. You want to go from the micro spikes to the trail crampon or the big ice crampons, the K10s, stuff like that. And the micro spikes will kind of get you through the 4. But if you want to go like the Devil's Path, you want to do some of the harder ascents, you will need more aggressive and you will need to spend more money. And, Tad and I both have been there. I went up plateau one time with snowshoes. 2 weeks later, I went up with micro spikes, but I came down with full on K10 crampons because it was just one huge sheet of ice. And I got to admit, that was the one time of my life where I've been scared that I was either going to fall and die or I was just, I don't know. It was just one of the most times where I was the most scared of my life. I've been on planes 30,000 feet, but.
Yeah, I seem to remember you telling that story. And I'm the other way, man. When I have my K10s on, I almost throw caution to the wind because I just have that confidence. Once your foot makes contact with whatever it is, your foot's going to stop in that spot. They're so
feel
grippy.
Like that.
Really? Nah, it's just I've come down when the ice on the trees, how you'll get like an inch coating or more of ice on the trees and then it falls off and it's almost like you're hiking in ice cubes on the trail. And I just have this sense that once my foot, plows through that initial layer of ice, it's going to hit what's underneath it and just stop. And it does. And I'm pretty successful just flying.
I'll have to take you on a time when it was like, because I was terrified.
Yeah. So, and while we're talking about fast downhill descents, have you ever hiked with Jim Booten in the winter?
I haven't. Wait a minute. Yeah. Yes, we did Westkill. We went down St. Anne's Peak.
Yeah, he flies in
He
the winter.
does.
He almost runs downhill. It's like a little rabbit out there.
He's like he is. He's like four legs and freaking flying.
Yeah.
Good point.
Just motors along. But he embodies
Did he have
that
an
whole
ice
concept.
axe though?
No. Real Catskill hikers don't carry ice axe. It's not a thing for us.
And I've seen people ask that question, and I've seen people carry that. There is absolutely no need for an ice axe in the Catskills. No. It's sometimes I wonder somewhat in the Northeast, but I do above tree line and the Adirondacks and the Whites, but I would have to say 75% of the time you wouldn't need it.
Yeah, you're going to hit a tree before you could deploy your ice axe.
Right.
So
before you're smart enough.
Yeah, save your money. Don't buy the ice axe. Buy us a cider. So you want to move on to snowshoes? You want to talk about snowshoes?
I mean, do we really need to talk about it? Is that going to be an issue in the next couple of years?
What, snowshoes?
Yeah, we're going to have all ice.
I'm just kidding. Yeah, I see.
One thing is I'm going to try to kind of like go in the show notes of everything that we're kind of talking about. So to kind of give you a perspective of what we carry and stuff, I will try. If you have any questions, send me a message through Instagram, send Tad a message, GSBar1, and we'll try to give you some help. So biggest thing in the Catskills is microspiked trail comets and ice crampons. Those are the biggest because ice is absolutely substantial in anywhere in the Catskills in the winter. It's definite. But let's move on to our favorite, Tad and I, snowshoes. What do you got on your pack / multiple times?
Yeah, so snowshoes. I started off with the MSR Evo Ascents, which is the hard plastic platform. Has the traction rails inbound or inside of the outer edge of the plastic, which I thought is more under your foot, so you get more weight on them and get better traction. And then they have like those bear claw crampons under the ball of your foot. And those things, I have beaten the crap out of them over this is going to be my 7th year using them. They're indestructible. They've never broken. I do maintain them, check them out before each hike, replace some parts on them from time to time. But those things are beasts. You can buy the optional tails for them. If you're mountain hiking, you don't need the optional tails for them because they do nothing for you going up or down a mountain.
Correct.
Yeah. I have picked up on eBay used. I picked up a pair of the MSR Lightning Ascents, and they have that soft deck on them. It's not hard. It's made out of like a plasticized canvas type material inside of the metal traction rails. And I got those because there are times during the year when the snow is so wet, it cakes up and just sticks to the bottom of your hard snowshoes. And so the plastic decking is flexible. And what's nice about that is with each step, you're kicking off the snow that's kind of like snowballing on the bottom of your snowshoes. And the other thing I'll point out is when you go to buy your first pair of snowshoes, you'll realize that the length of the snowshoe is sold to you or recommended to you by how much you weigh. And I think you should just basically disregard that, go with the average 22 inches or 24 inches. You don't need these super long snowshoes because when you're bushwhacking in tight terrain or trying to get your foot in between a couple rocks going up something on the Devil's Path, you don't want some 30-inch snowshoe. Making everything
Alaska snowshoes.
Yeah, it's like everything you do becomes a pain in the ass. You can't turn around with them. You can't, get your foot in here or foot in there because of them. And everyone I see that uses those big snowshoes, it's in the winter, mountain hiking is not about flotation, which is what the big shoe gives you. It's all about giving yourself a base to push off of.
Yeah.
And you get that with the smaller shoe. You're never going to be walking on top of the snow or within a few inches of the top of the snow. You're going to be packing it down and pushing off of it. And that's where the smaller shoe is better, in my opinion.
No, 100% agree with you. And I have the same exact snowshoes as you.
Oh,
So
yeah.
the Evo Ascents. I agree that having some sort of traction on the bottom, some aggressive grip definitely helps you with number one, breaking trail. Because once again, you got to push yourself up to the next spot. Breaking trail is absolutely insane, just to let you know. By yourself, it fucking sucks. But then you get up to these areas. Of course, you talk about the Devil's Path, and we'll talk about the higher ascents. So you need these snowshoes. You need to have some sort of grip down below to get you up these steep ascents. And you might need the snowshoes around these little chutes, but then you might not need them through these like 10 to 12 feet of chute. But if you have snowshoes with no traction on the bottom, how the hell are you going to get up the chute? That's why you need these lightning ascents that have these crampons on the bottom. They're not crazily aggressive like the K10s that you talk about, but there's something to help you up to get you to that next spot.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you say they're aggressive. Yeah, they work well. And I remember my first few times hiking with them, I was like, wow, these things are insane, because you're literally going up stuff in the summer you would have trouble with, like the cliffs on slide, right? You know, when they're coated with ice, whether you have K10s on or your MSRs, you're just going to walk right up that now. Sure. They're just going to bite right in. So here's the interesting question. Betsy a few weeks ago mentioned she uses the TSL snowshoe. You familiar with those, Stosh?
I don't think I am.
Yeah, so they have a flexible platform. They don't have the rigid traction rails like the tubs and the MSRs have. They've got crampons on the bottom, and it's a much smaller footprint than either the tubs or the MSRs. And so I've always wondered how well they would do on those days where you don't need the snowshoes because the trail is reasonably packed down. But if you don't have the snowshoes on, you're going to punch through it enough that you're going to be post-holing. So you should have something on your foot, but you can probably hike faster with the TSL. And with the flexible base, it's going to be less fatiguing and feel more natural than a rigid base. So
all these options, there's too many options.
Yeah, well, that's how life is. You know, this reminds me, this is a good time for me to point out when I was a young kid growing up in southwestern New York, south of Buffalo, heart of the snow belt, over 300 inches of lake effect snow per winter. One year, I bought like those old wooden snowshoes with the gut like webbing on the inside, and these things were used, and I had to do some work on them to make them work. But you know, I was maybe at the time like 5'2" or something, you know, not even 12 years old, and I had these things, and they were like enormous, but those would float on top of the snow because I was so light and these things were so enormous. But back then, that's what you had. There was really nothing on the bottom to give you traction over ice or anything that was harder than the soft pack snow or the freshly fallen snow. But now you have all these options, and it's like anything. You know, it's like golf. You have to bring around a bag of clubs with you because of all the different shots you take. So,
I mean, that's the way it is in the Catskills. You know, every elevation is going to offer a different kind of challenge. You know, you never know. Down at the bottom, we might have nothing, but at the top, you might have 3 or 4 feet of snow.
Oh yeah, all the time. You show up at the parking lot, and the question is, what is it going to be like 1,000 vertical feet up from where you are? You don't need snowshoes the first part of the hike, but once you get further out, are you going to run into snow? And many times you do. Many times you start off bare booting on your way up, and you get up 1,000 feet and you need some traction. And then before you know it, you have to pull out the snowshoes. So here is a good time to ask Stosh, just when is it, do you need to put your snowshoes on, or when can you continue bare booting or going along with your micro spikes? What is post hole? What is post holing, and what are the ethics around post holing? The do's and don'ts.
It's it's a very controversial topic, of course. Now, like when you start sinking a little bit, it kind of gets you concerned, and then you want to, of course, have the thoughts of others of when they're going to be sinking, and you sink a little bit, they'll sink even more. But then you throw the snowshoes on, you won't be sinking at all, and you'll be following that old awesome monorail. And a lot of people don't like to throw the snowshoes on early, but it's the same thing as throwing micro spikes on. Like it'll flippity flap. That's what I kind of make it sound like, it flippity flap. You'll still be going at the same pace somewhat. If you know what you're doing, if you've been doing this stuff. Once again, my friend John threw on his first pair of snowshoes going up Plateau Mountain, and he felt like he was God. He was he's like, holy crap, this is how these things work. It was incredible, because we were sinking at times, and during coming up Mink Hollow, we were sinking like a foot or two, and I'm like, it's time to throw them on. And he's like, I don't want to. And I'm like, throw them on. Don't be a freaking idiot. And he threw them on. Yeah. He was like, wow, these things are incredible.
Yeah. So, well, when you have a base to push off, which is what the snowshoe gives you, it's less fatiguing than bare booting. But the rule is with the DEC, when there's 8 inches of snow or more, you're supposed to have your snowshoes on. And my rule of thumb is when my boot is going in, and punching a hole that puts the level of the snow above my boot laces, then I should put my snowshoes on. Right. So that's about a 2 to 3 inch punch into the snow. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Is my general rule. And the thing of it is if you get a bunch of people that are going up a trail and they're creating post holes in it, and then there's a light dusting snow overnight, the next day people are going to hike on that trail and they're going to step into these post holes, and it creates an opportunity for them to get injured. And also, in my experience, it kind of takes away from the experience of hiking in the winter. If somebody's come, or a bunch of people come up or down the trail and chewed it up by post holing, it's just a rougher hike. It's not as enjoyable. It's more enjoyable if people put their snowshoes on, pack down the trail, and it becomes a nice surface for your followers to hike up and down. So wear your snowshoes when you can.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun.
Yeah, hiking is fun.
Yeah, and it kind of gives you more of that endurance too, to hike with them on. You get a little bit more. I don't know how to say it. It's just you get a little bit more. Endurance, like with the snowshoes on instead of just the trail compounds and or the micro spikes and stuff like that. So, real quick, Tad, fast. How do you carry your snowshoes? That's a big question.
I carry one under my left arm and one under my right arm.
Right.
Yeah. No, that's one of the things is you'll see people show up at the trailhead and they have their snowshoes and they think that they put them on when they leave the parking lot to go on the trail, but often you don't. So how are you going to carry them? And some people strap them to the top of their pack, which creates a wider pack and makes it harder to bushwhack with that. The best way is to try to strap them on either side of the pack, running, the length of your pack, or on the outer back of your pack away from you. So what I do is historically I use one of those bungee netting devices, and then use some carabiners to strap the webbing onto my backpack with the snowshoes underneath it. And that way I can stuff whatever I want under that webbing as well as I take on or off layers. It makes it really accessible. this winter with my new pack, I'm going to devise a different system, but you need to think about that in advance. And again, you'll see people with the webbing, you'll see people with bungee cords, you'll see people using straps to hold them on. But think about that in advance.
Or you'll see people like me who put them under the brain of the top of your pack.
Mm-hmm.
I put my brain, and then I hook them under, and then it's a little bit wide, but it's not bad.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the problem with that is you got the weight up high, and then
that's where you want it though.
No, you want the weight.
You want the weight to be on your shoulders, not on the bottom of the back, so it's slouching down.
Yeah. I like to keep the heavier weight in the middle of the pack.
I mean, that's so.
Yeah,
so that's whatever. You do what you want to do, Tad.
All right. I'm going to do my own podcast. So if you're listening and you want to join my podcast, it's going to be on Outside the Line, the Catskills.
Nice. In the Hudson Valley.
Yeah.
So layers, what do you have going on with layers now? What's your, this is a big topic.
This is where I feel for other hikers. I'm going to say from 20 degrees up, the cold is not an issue for me. I'll be hiking in the winter with just a pair of more durable pants than I would wear in the summer. I wear typically when it's in the 20s to the mid 30s, I'll wear a tight fitting base layer. And the base layer I use is one that's made for cyclists, because it has an extra wind protection in the front. Because when you're riding a bicycle, you're getting the wind hitting you from the front. When you're out hiking, you got your pack on your back, protecting your back from the wind, but nothing is protecting your chest from the wind. So I have a tight fitting base layer, and then most often just a thin mid layer over it, and I'm good to go. If I need more protection than that, like a hard shell, I have a really, really thin Patagonia Houdini with the hood, because a hood is important in the winter. Or I have a very thin, I don't even think it's 100 weight fleece with the hood and a wind barrier front that I would wear as well. But usually in the winter, don't need much in terms of layers. So Stosh, how about you? Do you need to bundle up more than I do, or you?
I mean, you and I are very like, I like to look at the weather, and then of course I have kind of all my layers always in my pack. Always, I'll have a kind of underlayer, for my legs, underlayer for the top, always in there, and then I have a kind of like a moisture wicking. They're all moisture wicking, by the way. And then I'll have my pants, like you said, kind of like a little bit more aggressive in the winter. I would say on outdoor research kind of pants that kind of has the wind resistance in the front, like you do with your lower layer. You always got to have that kind of like, you're never going to be going against the wind, kind of like it'll be to your back on the way down, but you're going down, so that's not going to matter. But going up, you always got to have that wind resistance. But I always have like all my layers in my pack when available. So once again, it always depends on how the day is. You're always gonna, the big saying is, what is it? Be bold, start cold.
Yeah. When it comes to that, what I tell people is when you leave the parking lot, you should be dressed like you're already 20 minutes down the trail, right? You're like as if you've already generated some body heat from hiking, and that I see all too often people overdress when they get out of their car, and then the next thing you know, they're starting to sweat. They've got to deal, now they have that moisture that's making them feel cold, and they're kind of like chasing that equilibrium throughout the day, but they started off on the wrong foot. So I just want to backpedal to where you say that you keep underlayers in your pack. I mean, are you taking off your pants and putting on like a layer, or is this something that would go over your pants?
So both ways, actually.
Okay.
if I know it's going to be extremely cold day, I would say below, like you said, like 20 degrees with a wind chill that could happen. I will have an underlayer. Already on.
Yeah.
But it's very rare in the Catskills. And if I know you get above kind of like the Coles area, you'll hit kind of like those good times of where you'll get some good amount of wind. But it very rarely happens. But I always have them with me. And my outer layers usually always work well. But then there's always those times of when you might have to kind of reconsider what you're doing to keep your legs warm and stuff like that. And it's always moisture wicking. Everything is moisture wicking. And I don't get the top quality shit like, like, I don't know, outdoor research, stuff like that.
Like I do.
Yeah. I get moisture wicking stuff from freaking Walmart. Like all my shirts are from Walmart, Reebok, stuff like that.
Well, you can get a lot of stuff that performs well without spending a lot of money. But when it comes to keeping your legs warm, when it gets really, really cold, I might start off with a base layer on my legs. But if I do, I have a pair of pants that has thigh zips on them, so I can zipper open the pants. Yeah, Stosh, don't give me
nice.
that look. I have these OR research pants that pretty much your whole thigh you can zip open. So when you're going uphill, you can have your legs venting and you're not generating a lot of heat, or the heat you're generating is being let out. And then when you get towards the summit, you can zip those up and stay warm.
Nice. I like that.
So you got to check them out. So, all right. So do you wear any pants that have built-in insulation, or you just wear shell pants and a base layer?
Just shell pants and a base layer is the most extreme, but it's mostly shell pants. The base layer has to be at like extreme cold temperatures. Yeah. And I have to say there's been very few times of where I love the cold, and I've faced the cold. Overlook Mountain, I faced like negative 30-degree temperatures because of wind chill, and I did have those base layers on, but I knew that beforehand. Any other times, I just have my regular kind of outer shell pants that kind of reject the wind.
When you talk about those extreme temperatures on Overlook, is this where we transition into what your outer layer, your wind protection is?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that would be a good thing. I mean, like I have my shell is a Helly Hansen. I'm not sure what type it is, what's it called, but I can definitely look it up. But it's an outer layer shell that's water resistant, weather resistant, wind resistant. To be honest, it wasn't cheap, but it was well worth the money because I have never not used it in any sort of weather type and not been kind of like disappointed with it.
Yeah, so it's an uninsulated shell by Helly Hansen. Does it have pit zips?
It does.
Yeah, so what are pit zips for our listeners who don't know what pit zips are?
Kind of like a I wouldn't say moisture wicking, but it kind of lets the hot air out under your armpits.
You unzip them, right?
Yeah.
There's a zipper that runs from maybe mid bicep under your arm to mid torso. You can unzip that and it'll allow venting to get heat and moisture out of you. And without taking off your jacket, you can zip it up and keep the wind out and the heat in.
Yeah. Again. And it's acted, I've been in the whites and stuff like that during rain. I used that during the rainstorms when I did my Pemigewasset loop, and that was phenomenal. It's been used in the Catskills when, like I said, negative 30s up on Overlook Mountain with an under layer of a puffy jacket. And it's been phenomenal. And I do not regret spending it's a decent amount of money that I paid for it.
So unlike you, I, for my outer layer wind protection, I have a single layer wind shell that maybe cost me $100. It has pit zips. It packs up relatively small. What you have is probably a double layer, 2 layers of wind barrier fabric, which costs more money, but is good for being above tree line and environments that are prone to high and sustained winds. What I do to compensate for the fact that I only have one layer in that jacket is I also bring along my summer windbreaker. And so if I need 2 layers, I'll wear the summer windbreaker underneath my outer shell, which kind of gives me the 2 layers, but it just also gives me the versatility because there's times where you're hiking uphill, you need the extra protection, a wind barrier, but you don't need something as beefy as that 1 layer wind shell, the more hard duty one I have. But the whole thing is you get out there and you start realizing as you hike around how much heat you're generating and how much insulation you need and how much is too much. And the important thing is to understand what you need without being too warm, because the warmer you are, the more you're going to sweat, and the more you sweat, the harder it is to regulate your comfort level. At least that's what I've found.
No,
So
definitely no, and that's all. It's all experimentation. Like it kind of sucks, but it doesn't. You kind of go back and forth, and you're just like, man, this is a little bit too warm. Let me delayer. And then you get up a little bit further, like, man, I'm cold. I need to put a bit. But that's what winter is. You need to realize, kind of experiment what you can regulate too, and it's all going to be based upon your needs. And that's the way I found it to happen within the past like 4 or 5 years when I started winter hiking, and I've found different needs, and I found different ways to kind of like to adapt to the winter conditions. And and I will always carry, like I said, my inner layers just in freaking case that little point happens of when you get, like, you never know of that call. I know you're not familiar with this, with the Lockwood Gap between Blackhead and Black Dome always has wind. There's never been a time where I haven't been up there with wind. And in the winter, it is extremely cold. And if you're like, hey, let's take a break before we get to the summit of Black Dome or Blackhead or any of these coals, you're going to get cold and you have to layer up. But then you layer down when you go back up. It's a struggle, but it's fun. Yeah. It's fun.
It's anticipation. So before we move on to more exotic elements of winter gear, let's talk about wool and what's all the fuss about things made of wool for winter hiking.
I have some wool stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm like, sometimes it's really good, but sometimes it's way too much.
Yeah. Well, I guess it depends on how thick it is.
It is. Right? Yeah.
Sometimes you think that, oh, look at that big, thick wool sweater. and I suppose if you go out, you're more prone to getting cold. And if you're not a fast hiker, so you're not generating a lot of body heat, maybe you need a thicker wool layer. My daughter did buy me some smart wool last winter for Christmas. And so I have this thin, really, really thin smart wool top. And the coolest thing about it is it's got a really, really broad range of temperatures that it's comfortable in. Unlike, putting on a fleece seems to have more of a narrow temperature band that you feel comfortable in. And then you either need to take it off or put something over it to maintain warmth. But with the wool, it just seems to cover a broader spectrum of temperatures. Mm-hmm. So
it's a little bit more expensive, but it's worth it.
Yeah, well, my kid bought it for me, so it didn't cost me anything, right? So you want to move on to boots?
I mean, I gotta admit, wool is awesome, especially you're moving uphill. Like I said, anything accumulates sweat and stuff like that, and you're going to have to like wick it off. Wool will keep you kind of like a little bit warmer higher up to where you won't have to kind of delayer and layer and stuff like that. But once again, anything and everything is going to have to wick that moisture off that you accumulate when you go up to higher elevations.
So I suppose I should just add in before we move on, the one thing that I do have with me in the winter that's made out of wool is a hat.
Yeah.
The wool hat is the best, and it is because it has that broad temperature spectrum that it works in, and it doesn't lose much, if any, of its insulating properties when it gets wet. So when you're out hiking in the winter and snow is dropping on your head from the trees as you move through them, your wool hat is still going to function very well. So wear a wool hat.
Yeah, I gotta agree. There's a bunch of back and forth with the hats. Of course, I'm a bald guy, so I have a bunch of different areas. I have light hats, winter hats that, of course, you're going up with, and then I have a little bit more thicker winter hats that I do when I'm higher up.
You have them made out of wool?
One of them is made out of wool, the higher up one, and the moisture wicking one down below isn't.
Yeah.
So it's just a moisture wicking material.
How many hats do you carry? How many hats do you carry with you? More than one, or just the one?
3.
3? Wow.
In the winter.
Okay.
Higher up, down lower, and in the middle where I kind of use it when I don't sweat. So it doesn't get sweaty and I don't have to kind of like it's not cold or something like that. It's really weird. I sweat a lot.
I'm a headband guy.
Oh,
I just cover up my ears, right, with the headband, and I'm usually pretty good until it gets really, really cold, and then I throw on the hat.
Nice. And you go. I never saw you as that kind of guy.
Well, you never hike with me, other than that time we went out with Mike. So,
that's
all
true.
right, we moving on to boots.
Boots. What are your thoughts? What do you have?
For winter hiking, when it is cold, I do have a pair of Vasquez insulated boots. They have the 200 weight insulation in them. And for me, I don't have a problem with my feet being, particularly cold in the winter. And when I do need a warm boot, these things are the go-to items. They are a little worn from a few years of hiking, but I just haven't found anything else to replace them with. So they're going out with me this winter. And when I don't have those, I have the La Sportiva hiking boots, which are killer.
Nice.
Take them they go anywhere, man. They're awesome. I'll say this: when you go looking for boots in the winter, and if you need insulated boots, then obviously buy insulated boots. But when you're also looking at the boot, look for a boot that has a notch along the back of the boot above the heel for your trail crampons strap to go up and over, so it stays more secure on your boot, as well as the back heel strap of your snowshoe, so it again stays up above the heel and doesn't fall off.
Yeah,
most well-made and thought out winter hiking boots will have that feature, but I've noticed some don't, and those are the ones to stay away from.
Agreed. Anything with a decent amount of traction on it, I suggest. Boots are very good for you because of stabilization with your ankle. Even outside of winter hiking, I have Merrells that I need to replace as soon as possible, which I'm looking to do. But, boots are great for winter hiking, of course, with, like I said, the stabilization and stuff like that, where you're going uphill with your snowshoes, with your crampons, stuff like that. And if you get the insulated boots, like Ted said, it'll help your feet stay warm. Your feet are kind of like the most important part of your winter hiking aspect, because your feet get cold, you'll start getting cold, and then it'll just be catastrophic from there. And your feet are the most important because they're going to get you down the mountain and such like that. So,
yeah, with boots, it's one of these things that whatever boots you pick to take on the hike are the boots you're stuck with for the hike. So,
yeah,
if you're going to wear your insulated boots, great. If you're going to leave them in the car or leave them at home, and you get to the trailhead and you realize that, wow, it's a lot colder than I thought, you're going to wish you had it with you. So it's a decision you live with when you set out on the hike, is you're stuck with those pair of boots for the day.
Yeah. I mean, what about like socks, do you have like any specific socks that you wear upon?
Yeah, look, I'm a what is it called? Darn Tough sock fan, and I do have a pair of wool Darn Tough socks. And so if it's a super cold day, and when I say super cold, I'm talking about single digits or less. I might throw on a liner inside of the wool sock, but I don't have a problem with my getting cold. Thank goodness.
That's good. That's good. Yeah. I have wool socks. I don't know which specific type they are. It goes from Darn Tough to everything else. But I just have some good moisture wicking socks that, once again, if you have during the colder winter times, you need an extra layer, you can throw that layer down the liner, of course, to help you out with the moisture wicking time of when you kind of like just have a little bit more time you need to help you get up at the mountain and stuff like that. So, Ted, did I lose you?
Yeah, I hear you breaking in and out.
Oh, wow. We're going back and forth, man. Zoom is suck.
I hear you.
Yeah. So, I mean, we kind of went over a little bit of outer layers a little bit. So what else? You said you had kind of like your 2-layer system.
Mm-hmm.
I have my Helly Hansen, but what about kind of like your puffy jacket? Do you have any specific type that you would suggest?
Yeah. So, with puffy insulated gear, I think the first thing you need to decide is, are you going with down or synthetic? There are pros and cons to each of them, go down or synthetic. I do have a down jacket that I got used at the Annex in New Paltz. It's a place where hikers, climbers, outdoors people, buy and sell used gear. So I had a puffy jacket I got from there. I think it's 600 fill. And I also got a pair of puffy pants there as well, filled with insulation. And I keep those 2 puffy layers, spare pair of socks, a pair of really, really burly gloves, and hat. All those items I keep in a separate waterproof stuff sack in my backpack.
Nice.
Just in case I think other things get wet, these won't get wet, and they're all together in one spot if I need to get warm really, really quick. But I'll say in 6+ years of winter hiking in the Catskills, nothing has ever come out that stuff sack. I've never used my puffy jacket, my puffy pants, my burly gloves, that extra hat or socks. I've never had to go to those. I've just been really good at regulating my temperature by taking on or off the windbreaker. Probably the thing I change the most is the gloves, whether it's going from just a pair of shell gloves, which I'll wear most of the day, to something with a little insulation in them. But it's really the hat, the gloves, and my shell are the most that I do for transition, as well as on colder days where I'm wearing those pants with the thigh zippers on them. I'll open or close those as I need to.
Yeah.
What about you? What are you carrying for puffy layers?
So I have a 800 fill down jacket from LOB that I'm looking to replace. It's been a while. I've had that for a long time. I think I'm going with a Rab down jacket that I usually use, and that's one, once again, like you said, is more up to the higher parts when you're at the top and you're going down, is when you want to dress a little bit more aggressively, so you can kind of like regulate your heat and you can keep it kind of flowing into the zone of where you can keep it at a certain temperature instead of going downhill. And, we talked about before, going up and going down is a whole different story. Going up, you're going to use a lot more energy, a lot more. You're going to exert a lot more, what's it called? Like heat. And then when you're coming down, I mean, it's still, you still use a good amount of heat, but you're not, in the winter, it's going to not be aggressive as you will. So you'll start going down. I guarantee you'll start going down with your down jacket or stuff like that, but you're going to delayer and you're going to put that hard shell on. So I just have an LL Bean 800 fill down jacket that, I like to use, but I mean, it stacks really nice in the pack. So, but I'm looking to replace that. So I'm going to get a Rab. I think it's called a Rab. I've looked well into this, and some guy, I'll have to post it on Reddit. Some guy posted on Reddit that he did like 100 tests of different down jackets. And it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool to see the price, the weight, the warmthness and stuff like that, the packness. He did a credible study.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what, the puffy layers like that, their packability is a factor, especially, somebody like me that I just have a 30-liter pack. So I have to be very conscientious about what I'm putting in there and how much space I'm using. But if you're over 40 liters, that's like you're, hiking around with an REI store on your back during the winter, and you can put everything in there.
Yeah. So synthetic, do you use synthetic mostly?
Yeah. Well, so like I said, the puffy layers I have are down base, which is warmer and lighter than the synthetic, and they do pack down a little bit better, but they lose their heating property when they get wet. But again, I've been fortunate enough not to need them. In terms of the synthetics that I have, I do have fleeces on a day when it's going to be, say mid-20s or lower. I might have a fleece in my pack to take on and off if I need it. And I do also have a pair of fleece-lined pants that I'll hike in when it's like single digits or lower. But those also have thigh vents, which is important. I think it's important if you have insulated pants or you're doubling up with a base layer and a pair of shell pants that you have that venting capacity, because sometimes just going uphill, especially if you got the hammer down, you're going to generate some heat. You need to vent.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And, when you talk about synthetic, kind of like the moisture wicking aspect ratio and stuff like that. You also got to remember that if you have any sort of weather, and it doesn't matter if it's snow or such, the snow will stick to your pack, will stick to your layer and stuff like that. And it could make you cold. So it might not be rain, but you might need your rain poncho with you, an outer rain jacket or your rain shell that covers your backpack, because this stuff will get wet and you'll get heavier, and it'll make your hike a little bit more miserable than you think. Because I've been in those times of when I battled the snow and I've forgotten my rain shell for my pack, and my pack has just gotten so much heavier because the snow just keeps accumulating on that backpack.
Well, and this is where you said your pack has a brain on it, which is kind of like a hood that goes over the top of the pack that also has storage in it.
Yep.
My old winter pack and the new one I just bought also have brains. And frankly, I eliminated a lot of packs from consideration because they did not have a brain. And one of the nice things about a brain is it covers however the pack would otherwise open at the top. If there's a zipper across the top or some other type of opening at the top, when you're hiking in the woods in the winter, snow is going to fall off the trees, land on you. It's going to get between the back of your head and your pack, and it's going to melt. And if you have a hood on, that's great because it's not going to go down your back between your layers and your skin. The hood is going to keep it out of there, but it is going to stick in that space between your back and your backpack and melt and get the stuff inside your backpack wet. So having a brain is important.
Mm-hmm. And having like any sort of protection. Once again, if you know you're going to get out yourself in the snow, there's going to be moisture on your pack, on your low clothes and stuff like that. It's good to have something that kind of like a either moisture resistant outer layer And we talked about that before, of course, with your outer layer. You know, I have the hard shell, you have the soft shell kind of like, and then the harder shell. You know, anything that has like a moisture wicking, you might not think that, or not moisture wicking, but a moisture resistant shell with this time. So the snow is just like rain. It just sits there actually, and then it'll accumulate more and more.
Yeah, it's important to have waterproof layers for winter hiking, because when you do get wet, you're going to get cold, and that's where one of my late fall, early winter rituals is getting the Nicky Wax rejuvenator to rejuvenate the water resistance or water repellency of my layers. You just spray it on. It's non-aerosol. Yep. And
I was going to wait. I didn't want to say that first that I did that.
Oh, so I stole your thunder. Yeah. You know, it's
no, I didn't want to say if it was good or bad or not. I was just like, oh, is he going to say that?
Yeah. Nice. So it's good stuff. Do it every late fall, early winter to just give them that, you know, fresh protection.
So gaiters. Do you use gaiters in the winter?
Yeah, of course. You have to use gaiters in the winter. And I've always toyed with how much money do I need to spend on gaiters? Frankly, I just use these cheap $20 gaiters I buy on Amazon, because invariably during the course of the winter, you're going to put at least one hole in your gaiters from your spikes.
Yep, your other spike.
Yep. So you're gonna stab your gaiters, and I can't see myself, you know, chewing up a pair of $50 or $75 gaiters. So I get the $20 gaiters, and you'll know me on the trail because I'll be the guy that's got duct tape on his gaiters, and, you know, they look like junk, but they work. And that's all I need is just a pair of $20 gaiters.
Yeah. So gaiters also, if you don't know, will keep kind of like the moisture out of your boots and stuff like that, and keep it more of the upper level of your pants, and then to the lower level of your shoes, so they won't get in between your shoes and get your socks all wet and you'll get cold. So they're pretty nice. I gotta admit, I just transitioned within the past year and a half, not even a year.
Wow. And you weren't using them before then?
Not at all. Not even in winter hiking.
Crazy. Yeah. No, I think gaiters are important. They keep your feet dry or drier, and they keep the water off your lower leg. They help retain some warmth down there. So at least for me, it seems like that's one of the things that keeps my feet warmer. And I don't think you need to spend a lot of money on gaiters.
Yeah.
So it's not like they're a traction device. It's not like weight is an issue with them. $20 is good for me. I think they're like maybe $16.50 or something. There's not a lot to them. Velcro and some fabric.
Yeah,
they work well.
Duct tape.
Yeah, and a roll of duct tape. Do you carry duct tape in your backpack? You have duct tape?
I carry duct tape a little bit in my backpack and a little bit on my my hiking poles.
Okay.
So just in case. So do you have like emergency shelters? Do you have one of those like kind of like those bivvies that the reflective bivvies and stuff like that? Do you carry that?
Yeah, I don't know if it's reflective, but in the winter, I carry 2 of them.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, because I figure you can, if you had to, you get into both of them, one inside of the other, and then you could maybe put a hole through the inner one to help vent if you're getting too much moisture inside of it, without exposing that tear, that opening in the inner one to the outside, because you have the outer layer going around it.
And they're not expensive. They're not expensive at all.
Yeah, they're throwaways. They're light. They don't take up a lot of room. And if there was ever that instance where I had to stop and spend the night, I've got the 2 cheap bivvies, and then I have the tarp and some paracord, and I think I have sufficient skills, so long as I'm mobile, to be able to make a temporary shelter and hang out overnight.
Darren White, he listens to the show and he supports the show. He had an episode on here where he used one just below the summit of Rocky, and him and his son used one of those emergency bivvies, and they say they helped them so much because they had a rough time getting over there. And I was just like, I mean, I've had one ever since I've started. I've had like one of them, and I always carry it kind of like a small tent that I have. I have a 1-person tent that I always carry in the winter because I'm just paranoid that something's going to happen. And I do not want to be that person that's on the news that died from a, thing. But I'll never go out there in those instances of where it'll be like, hey, we're getting 10 to 12 inches. Yeah, let me go freaking hike. No, not at all.
Well, you say that, but I remember a couple times I've been out there when they haven't called for that kind of weather. And then next thing you know, you feel it. You feel the pressure dropping, and you can start to hear the wind roaring, towards you. And I've been out there where it's been like, 45 minutes, an hour and a half of just nonstop snow.
And it's beautiful though.
Yeah, it's great. And it's even better when you know where you are and what direction you have to go to get where you want to be. And then when you get back to your car, it's kind of nice to get back to your car and have to brush off the snow as opposed to not getting back to your car. But yeah, it's only happened a few times, but I survived so I could be on this podcast.
Yeah, right.
My destiny.
God, we have a lot more to go over. Let's go quick. Let's quick go because we're hitting pretty good amount of time. So
Tom Hoos is almost to the Catskills from his place in Central Jersey now. Right? He's like getting off the thruway. He's like, when is the show going to be over?
So
we have a lot more for you.
So some of the extras to carry, hand warmers, definitely do that. Sunglasses. You seriously don't think you need sunglasses until you start seeing that snow for the first 5 minutes, and you're like, God damn, I need to go back and get my sunglasses. It's essential. Let's talk about sunglasses. Some suntan lotion, because the reflectiveness of the sun off of the oh my God, the snow really goes crazy, and I've gotten sunburned many times. I'm just stupid. Extra battery charger. I always carry I think it's I have a 30,000 megawatt one. I think it's called not megawatt, mega amps or something.
Yeah. MAH or MHA, whatever it is. 30,000 is damn. You could repower a whole city with that. Yeah.
It's huge. Trust me.
You could start your Tesla with that and drive it home.
It works. I did that. Yeah. I carry extra weight for everything. Talk about extra light sources, 2 headlamps. Tad, we both know that the sun is going down with daylight saving times a little bit earlier,
Yeah.
One of the big things that I like to tell people is that, breaking trail is beautiful, but it's a bitch, especially by yourself.
That's true.
Okay. I was waiting for you to say, please agree with me on that one.
Yeah. Well, look, I figure for winter hiking when I'm going solo, if there's fresh snow on the ground, I usually figure about a mile an hour is what I'm going to average.
Correct.
And sometimes I've gotten in trouble with that where you can't even do that. It's been so bad. And there's been a few hikes where I've had to cut short because, I set out, I was too ambitious, thought I'd cover a lot of ground, and no, sometimes you can't do it. The snow is so deep. It's not what the worst part about it is. What really slows you down is not what the accumulation was during that snowfall, whether it was 8 inches, 12 inches, 14 inches. It's the drifting, because you'll hit those drifts, right? You'll hit the drift that's like 3 feet or 4 feet, and it's impossible to get through a 3 or 4 foot drift without a lot of effort. And it takes a lot of time, especially going uphill. I mean, I've been out there where I just searched for, a part of the valley where it wasn't drifting, and you just can't find it. It seems like you're no matter where you go, you're just going to keep hitting them one after the other. And it's like,
and with that time, you're also layering and delayering because you're freaking huffing and puffing up. And then you stop to catch your breath, and you're starting to get cold. So you layer up, and then you freaking start moving. And you're like, God damn, I got to take this layer. It is amazing. I have had some of the most amazing experiences baking trail by myself, but It's like 2 or 3 times, and I'm just like, damn, I'm sick and tired of this, but I love it. It sucks, but it's great.
Yeah.
It's like it's hiking in general.
Which would you rather have? Conditions like that or humidity, bugs, and nettles?
All right. Right. So winter starter hikes. Chad, what are your suggestions on winter starter hikes?
Well, obviously, for our Catskill new hikers,
Yeah.
yeah, you can, Balsam Mountain. You hit the required ones. Balsam, maybe Slide. Believe it or not, you go to the tallest mountain in the Catskills, Slide Mountain, but you go up the Jeep Trail, and it's a relatively constant pitch. Chances are by the time you get there, it's going to be broken out by other hikers. You're not far from a rescue if you're going to need a rescue if you're doing it. And there's going to be a lot of people around to help you out if you get in trouble. So that's a good starter. If I was a beginner in the Catskills, Blackhead would not be my first winter hike. Okay. You want to work your way up to it. But then Panther's good. Balsam Lake is good. I think Windham, if you want to get away from the required, I think Windham is the best place to go and start your winter hiking experience.
Or not even.
What about you, Stosh? What about you?
I mean, not even any of the high peaks are pretty good. You do any of the escarpment. I mean, that's pretty good. That'll require some traction and some maybe shoes sometime. It'll either be packed down or all be postowed. You freaking get the post holes. Or, like Hunter. Hunter is a long one, but it's usually packed out, or usually like any cross-country skiers will be up it already. They love that ski up and down the Spruceton area.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, any of the fire towers overlook will either be post holed or broken in, and Balsam Lake is always a good one to start off in your first.
Yeah. I would say though, if you really want a great if you want a great winter hiking experience, head over to Airpen.
Yes. Which way though? Heisenberg or from the Route 3?
Route 3, go right up through the Col, bang a left, past the hunter's cabin, do the traditional hike. Gets a lot of snow, and it's just very beautiful up there in the winter. You can see why they wanted to make it a ski area.
Good point. Good point. Very good point. It's toughing the parking is tough on that time of year, though.
I drive a Jeep, it doesn't matter.
Yes, it doesn't. So awesome. So, Tad, prepare your vehicle for the winter in the Catskills. I mean, I know you have a Jeep and you can get out of anything, but what do you require? Tires. Yeah. It's upstate New York. What the fuck?
Yeah. Do you need snow tires in the Catskills? It all depends. I mean, you'll get to the parking area, but some of these places, like, you're not going to be able to get through the parking area, especially if it hasn't been plowed out. So that's where it's good to have a snow shovel with you. Particularly if you get to the parking area, you park and then they come and plow it and you end up finding yourself plowed in. Yeah, it's good to have the shovel with you. The other thing I carry with me, Stosh wouldn't have a need for this, but I have this Noco Genius battery booster box, which comes with a pair of jumper cables. It's about the size of a stack of 3 or 4 smartphones, and you can jumpstart your vehicle with this thing. So if you get back to the trailhead and your battery is dead, you're going to want one of these things. They're like $50 on Amazon.
What is it called again?
It's a Noco Genius Boost. And you buy the model that is sufficient for the size of the motor in your car. If you have a 2-liter motor, you buy the smaller one. If you have a 6-liter motor, you buy the bigger one because it needs to have enough joules to crank over the motor. So the one I have works, of course, on my Jeep. And like I said, it was like $50-$60. Well worth it. I've never needed it, but I have jumped other people's cars. And the nice thing about having this thing is you don't have to like put your car up against theirs and run jumper cables. You just like this little thing. fits in your hand, comes with little cables. You just put it right next to the battery. Works really well. The other thing is you ought to have is some blankets in your car in case you're stranded.
Mm-hmm.
You can stay warm without keeping your motor on.
Yeah.
So
make extra sure layers, stuff like that.
Yeah, make sure your car battery is good, because in the winter it's harder on your battery. So I think that's most of what I had for winter vehicle preparation.
Yeah, I always carry a shovel. I've been in several times of where I've had to dig my own parking spot because I know they're going to plow to a certain extent of the area, like up on Wyndham High Peak, up in Peck Road. I had to shovel my own parking spot. Roaring Kill Road, I had to shovel my own parking spot. I had to shovel my own 2 ways through there because I knew they were only going to part to a certain extent. Mink Hollow, I've had to shovel my own parking spot. And that was with the good old days of the Prius that I had. So, and I always have blankets with me no matter what. It doesn't matter what time of year, just in case anyway. And you just want to have that all the time, just in case of any kind of emergency, not just in the mountains, anywhere. You never know. So, a good thing that we like to end this off with is a lot of the places you could check for updates is, of course, the Catskill Trail Conditions page, any forums on websites, Facebook, Instagram, stuff like that. There's several places to check where updates are of people with plowed areas that are unplowed, after storms and stuff like that. I would suggest waiting a couple days after a big storm, to go up to those parking areas, especially the more secluded areas. I would say to before you start hiking, check out those pages first, because a lot of the locals post in there. It's really good. And the biggest thing, I know Tad put this in there, is my friend Sean said was a big thing. What is it? Be bold, start cold. Right, and that has to do with what you said. Don't overdress in the parking area before you go up.
Definitely, I see newbies do it all the time. They think they're out in the winter, so they need to bundle up, and you really don't, because you're not standing around. You're going to be moving eventually, whether it's within the first few feet, like you would at Hawkett, or a longer distance, like maybe at Slide, before you start the uphill journey. But you're going to be generating a lot of heat then. So don't overdress when you leave the parking lot. Dress like you're 20 minutes into the hike or so. Yeah. And that's a good way to keep yourself from overheating, because once you overheat and you generate all that sweat, it's hard to get rid of that moisture, and you're going to be cold.
Be bold, start cold.
Be bold, start cold. Okay.
So I guess that ends our discussion about winter hiking. So hopefully we didn't confuse you so much and bounce it all over the place. I'm going to try to post anything and everything that we talked about. Let me know if you have a question. I will give you a link. Tab will give you a link. GS Bar 1. Check them out on Instagram. Post hike Brews and Bites. Tad, you went to someplace special.
Oh yeah. So someplace special. So Danny and I, after our tremendous hike up the Bear Hole Brook, Table Peekamoose, we headed over to Snyder's and hung out in Snyder's with the local crowd, pulled down a couple brewskis, and it was fun.
What'd you think?
Snyder's, was exactly what I expected Snyder's to be. It was low energy. The beer was cold. The beer was good. I was disappointed they don't have anything on draft. I was expecting draft beer. No draft beer, bottles and cans, and that was okay. We had a beer. We got some strange looks by the locals, but we were expecting it, and we made it out alive.
Well, I gotta admit, I actually loved Snyder's when I first went there. I mean, where I live, I'm used to it.
Yeah.
It's just out of the ordinary. I'm just like, yeah, whatever. The decaying, rotting walls and the outer layer that just doesn't look like it should be. But I mean, isn't that the oldest? They have the oldest liquor license in America or something? Supposedly.
I doubt that, because that presupposes that someplace in Manhattan
or Massachusetts or something.
Yeah, I mean, you would think that there's other places that would have a license before them. They're probably the oldest continuous operating bar in Ulster County, at least. And
yeah, that's
just to look at the place from the outside kind of credits that statement. But it does look like they cut back some of the overgrowth this summer, and inside it's not is bad inside, and I don't even want to say it that way. I mean, you get inside, I'm not going to say it's nice. I mean, it's fitting for the area. It's got that smell that, there's probably 85 different types of mold growing around the corner. Yeah. And maybe you don't want to eat bar food there, but look, the beer was cold. It was good. It was fun to hang out there, chill for a little bit, catch up with Danny, and plan our next excursion.
Nice. I went to the Speedway. That's all I went to. So
in Margaretville.
Yeah. Well, actually, Jessica and I went to a place up in Albany that was a Mexican restaurant. I forgot what it was called, but it was absolutely phenomenal. She had a free margarita, so because it was her birthday. So yeah. So that place, every place should offer that. I'll tag it in there, but awesome.
Don't forget to tag Snyder's then.
Oh, absolutely.
What is it? www.snydersoldbar.com.
Beyond that, I don't even know if they have a www. It's like a URL or something like that. Yeah. So I'll tag them and see what they say. I'll stop by.
We need to do a show live from Snyder's.
We will sometime.
With the bartender. He was giving me the dirty look the whole time.
That's good. Maybe I'll come down there with my metal shirt on and he'll be giving me a dirty look.
He typecast me. So,
all right. So I guess that wraps up the show. So thank you to the monthly supporters and the monthly sponsors. Really appreciate you guys supporting and representing the show. Thank you to everybody who's still listening to the show. 146 episodes in. We're coming up pretty good amount. 146 episodes.
Who's on next?
I think it's Andrew from the Borscht Belt Museum.
Oh, okay. We're going back in time.
The
Borscht Belt days.
Indeed, and he's going to be a good time. He just had a huge show that they did recently down in Ellenville. So
correct.
So hopefully he'll have some great stuff to talk about. He will actually. So all right. So have a good night, Tad, and I hope you enjoy your weekend and stuff like that. And I'll talk to you later.
Excellent, buddy. All the best.
All right. Have a good night, man.
Over and out. Bye-bye.
Out.
Hey, everyone. I just want to thank you for listening to the show. If you enjoyed the show, subscribe and throw down a smooth review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any podcast platform that you use. You can also check daily updates of the podcast, hikes, hiking news, and local news on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and the official website of the show. Remember this, you gotta just keep on living in the Catskills, man. Livin.
Wicked.